Chapter 1132. However, Yilan was different from the little nurse, Lu Hui, who was the reincarnation of an immortal emperor. His cultivation realm far exceeded Chen Hao's, which was why his beer was untainted. Chi. From tens of millions to tens of millions, to hundreds of millions, to tens of billions, to hundreds of billions. As time passed, more and more cultivators gathered on Wuji Star. The sound of chanting grew louder and louder, and the aura emitted grew stronger and stronger. The area it covered grew larger and larger, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered grew more and more majestic. From Wuji Star to the surrounding planets, it continued to spread throughout the space of vast universe galaxy. In the void, strange phenomena appeared. The heavenly Tao laws became thicker and more profound. The sun and moon lost their color, and only the rays of the sun could be seen. At this time, Chen Hao's consciousness also joined in with the chanting of the believers. It seemed to be spreading endlessly, and the speed of his fusion with the second anima became faster and faster. The boundless pain that Chen Hao had to endure before his fusion with the second anima was destined to cause trouble and pain to Chen Hao's original body. But now, in the vast and boundless river of devout faith, it didn't even cause a ripple. It was drowned in Chen Hao's mind. No one knew. Even Chen Hao himself didn't realize that his method of preaching was a fusion of the essence of Taoism and Buddhism. Everyone present, who devoutly regarded Chen Hao as their god, was destined to never surpass the god in their hearts in this lifetime. No matter how high their talent was, they could only get infinitely close. The peak of the great Tao had no faith. Just like how Chen Hao could respect someone, but he would never worship anyone as a god. He only believed in himself. Chen Hao's method of preaching, which fused Taoism and Buddhism, was like a tyrannical domination to everyone. However, for everyone, especially considering Chen Hao's heaven-defying talent, it was obviously not a bad thing. After all, among those present, and even in the entire boundless universe of ancient chaos, who could surpass Chen Hao in the future? As long as they couldn't, it meant that there were only benefits and no disadvantages. Under the space-time laws, the stars moved and 800 years passed in a flash. God of Slaughter Chen Hao's teachings that had shaken the entire vast universe galaxy and benefited countless cultivators were finally coming to an end. However, when everyone woke up one after another and wanted to pay their respects to the God of Slaughter, Chen Hao, they realized that Chen Hao had disappeared from the high platform of the training hall. The controller Yilan, the Snow Plum True Immortal, the ageless legend Si Xian, and many of the Tao-severing true immortals and proud heaven's women and core generals had also disappeared. At the highest level of temple. Are you sure you're all going in? This is not a joke. The ancient chaos void is the most dangerous place in the ancient chaos Great Thousand World. It is different from the extraterritorial battlefield. In the ancient chaos void, you can encounter heaven and earth anomalies at any time. Moreover, countless experts who died in the ancient chaos void left their wills in the ancient chaos void when they were on the verge of death. After countless years, not only did their wills not dissipate, they even gave birth to God consciousness. Yilan said as he stared at Chen Hao and the others. God consciousness? Chen Hao and Hu Meinyang were shocked at the same time. What's God consciousness? Du Jing and Lan Feng asked at the same time. God consciousness is derived from the emotions or obsessions left behind by the ancient chaos void when they died, Yilan explained. It's extremely powerful when it comes to the mind. Possessing cultivators and destroying their minds and souls are their strongest attacks. This is the most terrifying and dangerous existence in the ancient chaos realm. This is also why Tao-severing true immortals aren't willing to enter it. It's also why it's become a prison for those who have committed the most heinous crimes in the 10 galaxies. Only very few super-geniuses, such as the immeasurable controller, would choose to enter the ancient chaos void to train for a period of time. However, they can't enter for more than 1,000 years, and that's only when they're in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. No way! So terrifying. Were the ancient chaos void all the top Tao-severing true immortals? That's right. Moreover, there are many God consciousnesses at the true immortal king realm that even I have to avoid. If you encounter such God consciousnesses, you won't have the power to resist at all. So, I think it's better for you to go with the group of people from the extraterritorial battlefield. Long Yi, Pan Donglu, Pan Dongxing, Huyan Aobua, don't go. You're going in to train, not to play. If you're not strong enough, you won't be able to move an inch. Besides, now, in addition to the tyrants, there are also experts from the other 8 galaxies. Although they compensated you 500 years ago, it doesn't mean that they surrendered. If they encounter you, they definitely won't let go of this opportunity. Yilan said. Senior Yilan, no matter what, we have to go with Big Brother. Pan Donglu said directly. Me too, Long Yi said. Other than Pan Long and the others who had experienced the 10 Directions domain and the extraterritorial battlefield, among Chen Hao's siblings, Pan Donglu, Pan Dongxing, and Long Yi were undoubtedly the strongest. They had missed it once before. How could they miss it again this time? In that case, let's forget about it. Big Brother, First King, and I will go to the 10 Directions domain. After all, the Proud Heavens Association has to have people. Our talents are a little lacking. It's also good to stay in the vast universe galaxy to manage the Proud Heavens Association. As long as you come back to see us occasionally. Huyan Aobua hesitated slightly and said directly after glancing at First King, Jing Tianggeng, Buttface, Lil Ling, Yang Fan, Li Feng, and the others. Chen Hao frowned slightly. Well, Aobua is right. The Proud Heavens Association has spread throughout the vast universe galaxy. You core members do have to stay behind to manage it. Then it's settled. When Chen Hao still wanted to say something, Yi Lan said directly. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission to Chen Hao. How? Oh, there is a limit to human strength. Everyone's talent and potential are limited after all. I know what you're thinking. If you do that, the final result will be that each of them will only be your shadow, and a shadow that will be useless. Instead of that, it's better to let them live their lives in the vast universe galaxy. That way, for them, it's meaningful, and now your belief in the great Tao has taken shape. The stronger you are, the stronger they can borrow your strength. Staying here and becoming your root is undoubtedly the best choice. Okay. Chen Hao frowned and slowly glanced at the crowd. Finally, he nodded and said. Immediately, he looked at Yilan and said, Senior Yilan, can you give each of them a life planet? Big Brother, no. Huyan Aobua was surprised, but he was stopped by Chen Hao. You mean, they will all be planet controllers? The original cultivators of these life planets will all be transferred out. I only want planets. You want to settle down the people of the Sky River sector? Yilan asked. In my mental world, there is no true heavenly Tao. It's not a long-term solution, Chen Hao said. Now that he had fused with the second anima, he naturally possessed the emotions of the second anima. Even though Chen Hao could no longer act as a bystander, he still had to make arrangements for the parents, children, and women of the second anima. After all, no matter how strong his mental world was, it didn't have the heavenly Tao of the vast thousand realms. It was fine in the short term, but not in the long term. Only Lu Hui, the spirit of all things, was unaffected. How many people are there in the Sky River sector? Yilan nodded and asked. Not many, a total of more than 1,300 trillion, Chen Hao said. The vast thousand realms had become a space of nirvana, and the people of the Sky River sector were new humans born in that space. Compared to the prosperous vast thousand realms of ancient chaos, 1,300 trillion was indeed nothing. It's not a lot, but it's not a little either. How about this? Aobo and the others each control a planet. It's a bit crowded. After all, they are the direct descendants of our vast universe sector. Old Man will give them a main planet, and the 1,008 planets under the main planet will all be under their names. The controllers of all the planets will be temporarily elected by Aobo and the other members of the Proud Heavens Association. However, the premise is that they don't interfere with their freedom. Let them develop on their own. The cultivators of our vast universe sector won't interact with them for the time being. When they grow up and are strong enough, we will interact with them. What do you think? Cough cough, so generous. Chen Hao was a little surprised when he heard Yilan's words. When has old man ever been stingy with you? However, such a big move naturally requires a return. When Lu Hui grows up and the Sky River sector returns to being a vast thousand realms, we will establish a free exchange contract with our vast universe sector. Fair exchange, this shouldn't be a problem, right? Oh, there's one more thing. After Lu Hui advances to Hongmeng, I hope she can bring the true immortals of our vast universe sector to the space of nirvana, including me. No problem. Chen Hao made a decision. Well, you can leave her to me first. I will handle it as soon as possible. Okay. Buzz. Buzz. Chen Hao's consciousness directly announced his decision to Lu Hui and the billions of creatures in the Sky River star field in the macro world of his mind. Then, he opened the macro world of his mind and directly connected with Yilan. After a while, the two stopped. The billions of beings of the Sky River sector and all their belongings were moved into Yilan's mind world. Chen Hao, Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, Tentai Lian, Xia Yu, Leng Ninghuan, Leng Ningle, Long Ting, Bailey Ningbing, Hu Meinyang, Chen Yan, Xiao Mei, Chen Xiaoqing, Chen Ling and Liang, Pan Dong Lu and Fan Dongxing, Du Jing and Lin Xia, Long Yi and his Dao partner Tian Exin, Lan Feng and the supreme beauty of Hongmeng, Shui Lan, Pan Long, Chenan, and Itoda, the three bachelors. Si Xian herself and the 9 true immortals. 10 people. Lu Hui was the only one left in Chen Hao's mind, as well as her cousin, Lu Qian, who was forced to stay by Lu Hui and wanted Chen Hao to accept her as a buy one get one free, and Si Xian's third life, Xiao Feng, who was still immersed in the sea of corpses. There were a total of 39 people. Yi Lan directly opened the space-time gate that could only be opened by the controller's token and sent them into the ancient chaos void. They were to be recalled after 1,000 years. This is a pain in the ass, but it will be over soon. Please vote. Chapter 1133. In Yi Lan's opinion, 1,000 years was definitely the limit for Ao Tian and the others. After all, apart from Itoda who had ascended to the supreme of Hongmeng, Chen Hao and the others were only Daoyuo Jingxian. Even with the 9 true immortals and the legendary Si Xian, 1,000 years was not easy. After watching Chen Hao and the others disappear into the space-time gate, Snow Plum True Immortal bade farewell to Yi Lan and went directly to the 10 Directions territory. She entered the Star River Tunnel and stepped on the Star Road to the great world of Xiendi. Yi Lan gathered the higher-ups of the vast universe galaxy and began to settle the billions of lives in the Sky River sector. Chi, rumble. Rumble, what's that? Streams of light cut through the void, and Chen Hao and the others appeared in the void of the ancient chaos realm. The moment they appeared, they were shocked by the strange phenomenon that filled the entire world. A terrifying explosion rang out, causing the mountains to crumble and the earth to crack. A boundless, ancient aura surged forward and the entire space became filled with an extremely terrifying will to fight. The will to fight alone was enough to shock Ao Tian's group, Si Xian and the 9 true immortals. Boom boom boom. After a brief moment of shock, they all gathered themselves to their peak state to resist the terrifying pressure. Strange phenomenon. At this moment, Chen Hao's pitch-black eyes shone with a crystalline light, as if he could see through the endless space and time. He said 2 words in surprise. That's right, it's a strange phenomenon. It's the remnant of the Tao from the ancient battle. One of the true immortals' eyes suddenly shook, and he regained his clarity. How terrifying! Billions of years have passed, and yet the remnant aura of the battle is able to invade our soul essence and create illusions. What would happen if this is the divine will of a primordial great power? Another Tao severing true immortal exclaimed in shock. Brother Chen, are you all right? The 9 true immortals recovered one after another and saw through the illusion that had existed for countless years. They all looked at Chen Hao in surprise. I'm fine. As expected of the most dangerous place in the ancient chaos realm. It's really a good place. Chen Hao said with a slightly excited expression as he held the 9 syllables mantra Akala seal. After the battle in the foreign battlefield, Chen Hao could slow down his pace and wait for Proud Heaven and the others to break through. After that, there was no longer any challenge to speak of. The only challenge and passion he had was the endless dual cultivation with the mature Xiaomei. It was very comfortable, very leisurely, very charming, and now, the moment he entered the ancient chaos Great Desolation domain, he encountered such a powerful illusion Dao mark pressure, which made Qianhao look forward to the ancient chaos Great Desolation domain even more. Break! At this time, Xi and Ito Ta's eyes lit up almost at the same time. They jumped out of the terrifying pressure of the illusion. The scene in front of them was restored to boundless desolation and darkness. Except for that, where was the terrifying battle? Ito Ta, who had been in the depths of the chaotic space for more than 10,000 years, had experienced too many life and death situations. At this moment, he was already the supreme of Hongmeng. At least in terms of willpower, he definitely surpassed Coiling Dragon and the others. It was not strange for him to be able to wake up in a short while. And Xi Xian was very powerful. She had cultivated for tens of millions of years. Her soul, state of mind, and willpower had already reached the stage where no technique could touch her. Logically speaking, she should not be inferior to the 9 great true immortals present. But this time, she was one step behind the 9 great true immortals. The 9 great true immortals naturally knew what was going on. The great Tao was emotionless. When emotionlessness turned into emotion, it was impossible to be untouched by any technique. It was just that the 9 great true immortals would not say it out loud. As for Xi Xian herself, she naturally did not think that she had a flaw. Boom. Chi 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 chi. And at this time, Chen Shui and the others who were still trapped in the illusions suddenly began to attack wildly. Separate. Chi 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 chi. Chen Hao directly made a move. He pointed his fingers several times. Every time he pointed, one of Chen Shui and the others would be sent far away, leaving enough space for them. In an instant, the 25 people were separated. Master, I am still very powerful now? Ito Ta, who quickly understood what was going on, said proudly. If you get more Hongmeng supreme beauties with big butts, maybe you will be even more powerful. Cough cough. Master, I'm wronged. From the beginning to the end, I am reluctantly helping others. I am the same as Master, we are not casual people. We have not done any dual cultivation. At most, it is compensation. They are the same. Xi Xian frowned slightly, looked at the two of them, and thought to herself. How many did you bring? Chen Hao smiled and stared at Ito Ta. What? Ito Ta's expression changed, and he took a step back. Seeing that Chen Hao did not speak, Ito Ta suddenly broke out in cold sweat and whispered, 3, 10, 30? 30. Master, I don't want to hide it from you, but they will never appear, so I didn't say, bring them in, go, take them, don't go too far, cultivate by yourself. Cough cough. Yes, Master. Ito Ta said gratefully as if he had been granted amnesty. He thought that his master would blame him, but he didn't expect that his master would just ask. 39, and it seemed that his master didn't have much of a reaction. If he knew this, he wouldn't have given up so many in the beginning. Remember, don't mess around in the future. If you want to find a real Taoist companion. Yes, Master Xi Xian, seniors, you can also cultivate by yourself. They will be fine with me. Here I will build a base. If there is anything, you can send a message to me through the personal battleship. This is for you. Chi 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 chi. 10 microbrain chips and 10 battleships suddenly appeared in front of Xi Xian and the 9 true immortals. The battleships may not be as fast as you, but they have better concealment capabilities. With this as the core, the range of communication will increase. It's very simple to use. Just make a small wound on your body and put the chip in contact with the wound, and it will recognize you as its master. You will naturally understand the rest. Good. The 9 Dao severing true immortals said excitedly. They directly received Chen Hao's gift. The main reason why Ao Tian's 11 legions could be so powerful in the extraterritorial battlefield was because of Chen Hao's high-tech battleships. Even they were looking forward to it. After receiving the chip from Chen Hao, the 9 of them immediately cut a piece of it on their hands. Soon after, they revealed expressions of surprise and joy. Brother Chen, farewell. If you have any problems, Let us know at any time. We will be on call. Chi 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 chi. After saying this, the 9 true immortals excitedly entered their respective battleships and disappeared in front of Chen Hao and Si Xian. Master Si Xian, you don't want it? Chapter 1134. Si Xian stared at Chen Hao and said, "Yes, why not?" As she spoke, she waved her hand and took the smart brain chip and the battleship into her mental world. Then she said, "Let me test your true battle strength." "Is that necessary, Teacher Si Xian?" "It's very necessary. Whether it's here or in the great world of Xiandi in the future, if you don't know the true strength of your teammates, how can you make the right judgment?" Si Xian said, then frowned slightly. "What's with that look? Even your father?" "Stop. I know you're old, very old. Is that enough? Although I don't want to say it, I really don't think you can test my true battle strength. How about this?" Chen Hao didn't care that Si Xian was glaring at him. As he spoke, his body suddenly shook and turned into Tu Chen Hao. "This is my 3rd anima, the one that was born in the Great Thousand Primal Chaos world." Splash. The moment Chen Hao finished speaking, the rolling spirit spring condensed into a miniature azure ocean in the void. He said, "This is the 6th life I just condensed, the spirit spring sea. This is the 2nd life I comprehended when I preached. Qi. This is the 4th life, the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree. Buzz. This is the 5th life, the tree of life. Including my original body, there are a total of 6 lives. Choose an opponent. Don't look at me like that. I'm not looking down on you. It can't be helped. It's just that I think I'm a little strong." Chen Hao said. "Your teacher Si Xian? So beautiful. You can choose me. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. If I lose, you can do whatever you want with me. If you lose, be my..." "Shut up. What right do you have to speak?" Cough cough. "Yes, yes. The 3rd life, which was born in the vast Thousand Chaos World's mad demon realm, immediately shut up after Chen Hao's original body scolded him." Si Xian's eyes widened in shock. She said, You split just because you said so? The spirit spring was refined to the 6th anima by you?" Si Xian was truly shocked. She had already completely fused with the 2nd anima. However, if she wanted to separate them, she would have to expend quite a bit of effort. Furthermore, there was no way she could do it so thoroughly. If Chen Hao was in the 3rd anima, it was obvious that he and Chen Hao had already become 2 different people. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stared at her with such interest, and even looked a little shameless. "Is there a problem? Don't you know that the 9 lives profound technique can only be improved by using the life of a human?" "I don't think so," he said. "My true self, 2nd anima, and 3rd anima are all humans. I feel like that's a bit too much. Look at this kid. Why don't you pick him? If you can help me kill him, I can consider forming a new non-human as my 3rd life. This sovereign, don't go too far. I'm more or less you, right?" When 3rd anima heard Chen Hao's words, he looked at Chen Hao with an ugly expression. "You're so cruel to my woman. So what? Motherfucker, get lost and go train." Chen Hao's face reddened. He had laughed at Si Xian's quarrel with the 3rd anima. Now that he had separated for the first time, such a situation had occurred. Chen Hao hadn't expected this. His forehead flashed, and the 3rd anima transformed into countless motes of light that shot off like lightning. "Don't be so overbearing, sovereign. I've endured so much, suppressed it for so long. Little Hui likes you more. But little Qian and the others, including your own flesh and blood, how can you be so cold-blooded? Fuck, if you've got the guts, then talk terms with me. You get lost and go train to get lost." Chen Hao had thought that the 2nd anima would be more obedient. He hadn't expected that just as he chased away the 3rd anima, the 2nd anima would flip out. Chen Hao's expression was unsightly as he sent it flying with a kick. Lu Hui, the nurse, burst out laughing within Chen Hao's mental world. "Serves you right?" Si Xian taunted, looking at Chen Hao's awkward expression with amusement. However, her heart was filled with astonishment. To be able to separate so thoroughly and become separate consciousnesses meant that after the second anima and the third anima trained separately, the results of the second fusion would be as shocking as the first fusion. This was something that Si Xian couldn't do. To put it bluntly, if she were to separate the true body and the second anima and train separately, there would be almost no effect. This was because she had truly fused. Unlike the third anima, which still had to fuse, she had only comprehended the comprehension of the cultivation realm once. Chen Hao's body and soul had clearly fused completely, yet he could separate them into separate consciousnesses. This was simply inconceivable. There's no need to fight with me, right? If you want to take a bath or something, I welcome you, Teacher Si Xian. I'll use my purest energy, my most gentle waves, to gently caress your proud body. Fuck! The words of the sixth anima's spiritual spring nearly caused Chen Hao to fall to the ground. Si Xian, who was being openly teased, immediately blushed. Sovereign, I'll get lost myself. Thank you. Crash! The miniature version of the spiritual spring sea splashed down like the Milky Way from the ninth heaven. Soon after, it spread out like a small stream in the chaotic antiquity domain and rolled away. Teacher Si Xian, you can choose me. Get lost. Are you serious? Sovereign, I haven't finished speaking. The Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree was sent flying by Chen Hao's kick. I like beautiful women, but I like handsome men like this sovereign even more. Fuck. Get lost. The tree of life immediately let out a sound that was almost the same as that perverted transvestite Zhou Qinglong's. Chen Hao was so frightened that he immediately sent another kick flying. Little sovereign, you're hurting me. Haha. Si Xian finally burst into laughter. Chen Hao's face turned green. Even if he was beaten to death, he would never have thought that the 5 lives he had condensed would not give him any face. Each one was more speechless than the last, and each one was more troublesome than the last. Especially the 6th life of the Tree of Life. It was practically a fucking reincarnation of Zhou Qinglong. If he allowed himself to be tainted by Zhou Qinglong's style, he might as well kill himself. What are you laughing at? Chen Hao said unhappily to Si Xian, who was bent over laughing. I'm happy, huh? To think that you've lived for tens of millions. Chen Hao stopped mid-sentence, and his eyes lit up. Laugh. Continue laughing, laugh with all your strength. Si Xian, who was looking at Chen Hao, was taken aback. She followed Chen Hao's gaze and lowered her head slightly. She, who was still laughing, immediately shut her mouth. Her pretty face flushed red as she scolded, Rogue. Even your father. Fuck. I respect you as Teacher Si Xian, but don't always take advantage of your seniority. Can't you act like an elder? I don't? Si Xian raised an eyebrow. You do? Chen Hao asked with a frown. You treat me as an elder? I don't. Chen Hao asked again. The two of them stared at each other for a full 10 seconds, and Si Xian felt guilty under their stares. Humph, you know very well whether you do or not. Enough nonsense, make your move. Si Xian's pretty face turned red from anger and shame. Just as Chen Hao had said, she was someone who had lived for tens of millions of years. But for some reason, she couldn't remain calm in front of Chen Hao. She really didn't have the demeanor of an elder. Maybe it was because of Chen Hao's abnormal strength, his current status in the vast universe galaxy, or maybe it was because he was in the 3rd anima. In short, she subconsciously treated Chen Hao as someone of the same generation. Just thinking about it made her blush. However, the feeling was mutual. Si Xian definitely didn't think that this was all her fault. Chen Hao seemed to treat her as an elder, but from the moment they met until now, Si Xian really didn't feel it at all. His sincerity in treating her as an elder was nothing more than lip service. But now, if they really confronted each other, Chen Hao would at least be able to justify himself on the surface. But what about her? She would have to suffer in silence. Do you really want to fight? Chen Hao looked around at the people who had fallen into the illusion, then stared at Si Xian. What answered Chen Hao was a finger that contained a terrifying pressure and endless mysteries. The finger was slender, and crystalline, just like Si Xian's finger. The size was also the same. It seemed slow, but it broke the laws of space and time. In an instant, it enlarged in Chen Hao's eyes. Boom! Endless immortal light, majestic and mysterious Dao laws, as well as an immortal sword intent that surpassed Chen Hao's level of comprehension, suddenly burst out from the finger, turning into thousands of dazzling sword lights in an instant. Amazing! Chen Hao, who was originally joking, was shocked at this moment. Without any hesitation, Chen Hao activated the great teleportation technique. Boom, boom, boom. Chen Hao's figure appeared in a sorry state amidst the continuous sounds of explosions. The great teleportation technique had failed. How was this possible? I knew you were going to escape. I may not be a match for you if I fused with 6 lives, but you'd better fight me with your full sincerity. I won't hold back. Xi Xian's proud voice resounded through heaven and earth. Her Taoist robe fluttered, and her figure was lithe and graceful. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, her pretty face was slightly flushed, her breasts were high, her waist was slender, and her buttocks were perky. The maturity, elegance, and confidence of the immortal legend seemed to have completely blossomed with the effect of her finger. Not to mention Chen Hao, who was a little embarrassed by her powerful attack. Even the little nurse Lu Hui, who was watching the situation in Chen Hao's mind world, was slightly stunned. What a beautiful supporting actress! She has the charm of a beautiful young married woman, but the purity of a young girl. Can Brother Hero withstand this seduction? Phew! When the sword lights dissipated, Chen Hao let out a long breath. His eyes shone brightly as he looked at the proud Xi Xian and said, "You're indeed the immortal legend of the vast universe galaxy. It seems that I've underestimated you." Of course, it's your father. Fuck, Xi Xian, I'm warning you. If you mention my father again, do you believe that I won't beat you? Do you have that ability? I doubt it. Besides, I'm telling the truth. Even when your father had just stepped into Hongmeng, he wasn't a match for me. Not to mention that you're just a little brat, Daluo Jingxian, and only your true body. Chapter 1135. Alright, then I'll show you the power of my original body. Boom. Chen Hao knew that Xi Xian was deliberately provoking him, but this girl kept bringing up his father, which indeed made Chen Hao very unhappy. Moreover, Xi Xian's unexpected finger attack made Chen Hao realize that as a legend of the human race, the unfathomable Xi Xian's strength was very terrifying. Even in the extraterritorial battlefield, the Hongmeng ninth life of the Shao clan's patriarch was probably no match for Xi Xian. After tens of millions of years of cultivation, she had always been at the peak late stage of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. This could not be measured by the peak late stage of the Hongmeng Supremacy Realm. Chen Hao did not know the strength of a cutting Dao perfected immortal of the human race, nor had he experienced it. However, Xi Xian was able to make the previous 9 cutting Dao perfected immortals address her as Teacher Xi Xian. This was probably not just because of Xi Xian's age. With a step, the void was torn apart. Chen Hao's spirit and fighting spirit soared into the sky. Crystal light flashed on his fists, and a pair of supreme-grade sage gloves appeared on his fists. At the same time, he threw a punch at Xi Xian. Whoosh! The mountain-like fist print tore through the sky. Wherever it passed, space collapsed and Dao laws shattered. The rolling spiritual energy of heaven and earth was suddenly swallowed by the fist radiance, and a desolate aura that could destroy all things in the world rolled out. Earth Desolation Sutra. Xi Xian raised her eyebrows and instantly determined that the profound meaning of Chen Hao's punch was one of the 3 great immortal sutras from the vast thousand chaos world that Chen Hao had imparted to her, the Earth Desolation Sutra. You've comprehended it to such a level? Unfortunately, my cultivation level is 1 level higher than yours. Just nice, it'll help me comprehend it. As Xi Xian pondered, she looked at the rapidly approaching fist shadow and suddenly pointed her finger out again. It was the same slender and crystal-clear finger, but the Tao laws contained in it had completely become the profound meaning of the Earth Desolation Sutra. Boom! Just as it was about to collide with Chen Hao's fist shadow, Xi Xian's slender finger once again exploded. In that instant, A boundless and terrifying desolate energy that seemed to be able to wipe out all life in the world gushed out like a mountain or an ocean. Although the realm of his desolate power Upanishad was several times lower than Shenhao's, his immense energy was several times stronger than Shenhao's. Using quantity to make up for the gap in the comprehension of the earth desolation scripture. Boom! Rumble! The fist shadows collided with the finger radiance, and a terrifying explosion occurred. Chi 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 chi, and just at this moment, Shenhao punched out 1,000 times in an instant. Si Xian wasn't willing to give in, her jade-like fingers jabbing out repeatedly. The mountain-like fist shadow and slender finger light instantly filled the entire space. Powerful indeed. When Shenhao punched out, he was shocked by Si Xian's absolute strength, but he still approached her step by step. Pervert, do you think I'm afraid of you? Si Xian was also shocked by the strength of Shenhao's original body. However, Shenhao, who was Daluo Jingxian, had already disintegrated and lost the Dao manifestation immortal fruit tree, the tree of life, the spirit spring sea, and the 2 human clones. He was only left with his original body, but his strong physical endurance, vital essence, soul power, and other absolute strength were absolutely terrifying. He was definitely among the top Hongmeng Supremes and a top human expert. Under the suppression of her absolute strength, not only did he not retreat, but he also approached her step by step. This was undoubtedly a provocation to Si Xian. At their level of strength, close combat was undoubtedly the pinnacle confrontation of absolute strength, combat skills, and divine power laws. Once they got close, there would be no room to maneuver. You want to fight in close combat? Then come over. Buzz. Si Xian shouted proudly. Her graceful figure suddenly shook, and in an instant, the endless immortal light and pressure that bloomed around her body were directly retracted. At the same time, her exposed skin bloomed with a jade-like crystal light. Immortal golden body? Seeing this scene, Shenhao's pupils contracted. Even he did not expect that Si Xian would be able to completely merge the immortal golden body with her physical body. However, after seeing this scene, Shenhao's doubts finally disappeared. She had only comprehended the 3 animus. Even if she had experienced endless reincarnations, even if she had grown up little by little on a barren planet like the Wuji star, it was still a little too outrageous for her to maintain her youthful appearance for tens of millions of years. After all, she had always been at the peak of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. However, now that Si Xian had merged the immortal golden body with her physical body, Shenhao's doubts were resolved. The immortal golden body, the true immortal golden body. Even if Si Xian's lifespan was nearing its end, she would still be at the most beautiful stage of her life and would never wither unless she died. Buzz. Amidst her surprise, Shenhao's rapidly approaching figure suddenly burst out with dazzling rune light. Physical artifact? This is an ability that Lil Mainyang obtained after inheriting the Misty Rain House's ancestral master's innate Dao embryo. You actually managed to cultivate it. It was Si Xian's turn to be surprised when she saw the extremely mysterious runes shining on her exposed skin. Are you afraid? Shenhao, who had already closed in on her, threw out a punch. All of his strength was condensed on his physical body, and there was not the slightest bit of it being released. However, as his fist streaked across the square-inch space, it directly collapsed. It was fast, ruthless, fierce, and violent, and it was aimed directly at Si Xian's chest. Afraid? You're not enough. Si Xian's fingers opened into a palm. As she stretched and retracted her palm energy, her slender fingers spread open and wrapped around Shenhao's fist. It was like the bone-melting soft palm, diverting, resisting, and attacking the force. She used the profound of strength to the extreme. Rumble. The frequency at which the fists and palms collided suddenly became extremely fast. The 2 figures moved from the sky to the ground, advancing and retreating, floating up and down. Numerous afterimages instantly filled the space within a radius of several thousand miles. Only the crisp and dull sounds of fists and palms colliding could be heard. After this continued for a few seconds, a strange phenomenon suddenly appeared. The space that the two of them passed by was like a long dragon that was sprinkled with gunpowder. Along the path that the two of them passed by, it began to collapse continuously. The aura of desolation spread out in all directions. Xi Xian's jade-like palms and Qinhao's fist both showed flickering cracks, and their colors changed. I can't take her down? After a series of strong attacks, apart from bearing a terrifying pressure, Qinhao did not gain the slightest advantage. At this moment, whether it was strength, speed, the mysteries of the Earth Desolation scripture, or the battle skills that had always been wondrous, Qinhao had pushed them to the peak. However, Xi Xian, who was an immortal legend who had lived for tens of millions of years, had both offense and defense. Relying on her absolute strength, she did not give Qinhao the slightest advantage. Tens of millions of years. Even if she is equal to me in terms of absolute strength, it will not be easy to completely suppress her. Without the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, the tree of life, the spirit spring sea, the second life, and the third life, Qinhao, who only had his original body, suddenly had a clearer understanding of his original body's strength. Back in the extraterritorial battlefield, he had been surrounded by the Shao clan patriarch's ninth fate and hundreds of top foreign race experts. However, he had still been able to handle the situation with ease. Of course, the biggest reason for that was the Tree of Life's undying attribute. However, that was only enough to keep himself alive. Even with the devouring ability of the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, Qinhao had been able to easily kill the weakest among the 900 people. To be precise, he did not even have the time to truly fight against the Shao clan patriarch's ninth life and other top experts before he was interrupted by Lu Hui's divine punishment. As for the immortal legend Xi Xian, she was undoubtedly the top Hongmeng supreme of the human race, or rather, the first Hongmeng. After entering the Hongmeng realm, the human race's advantage was even more obvious. Just how strong was Xi Xian? Although Qinhao did not want to admit it, he knew that after experiencing the extraterritorial battlefield, his confidence had swelled too much. He had indeed underestimated Xi Xian too much. Now that the 5 lives had separated from his original body, it was basically impossible for him to subdue Xi Xian. Even though the battle had just begun, grind. With a flash of thought, Qinhao suddenly stopped his attacks. The profundity of the Desolation Earth scripture instantly disappeared. At the same time, his fist turned into a palm, turning hardness into gentleness, and similarly, he had both offense and defense. He had already bragged. It was fine if he could not take care of Xi Xian, but he definitely could not let her take care of him. If that happened, where would he put his face? Therefore, Qinhao had no choice but to change his strategy. Break! Boom! Tens of millions of kilometers away, Helian Wuzi suddenly shouted. The space between her eyebrows blossomed with incomparably resplendent chaotic immortal light, like the Milky Way gushing out from the 9 heavens. Boom boom boom! The Tao mark illusory realm that had sunk into the depths of her soul was annihilated at this moment. Phew! To encounter such a powerful Tao mark illusory realm as soon as I entered, this ancient chaos desolation region is indeed powerful. Releasing her divine sense, Helian Wuzi immediately sensed the terrifying battle fluctuations thousands of kilometers away. How and Teacher Xi Xian? I just knew that Teacher Xi Xian would provoke him, the beginning of his fall. Helian Wuzi's cold as the moon, her beautiful face revealed a light smile. He's also not a good person. He clearly has the intention of casting a long line to catch big fish. Thinking of everything that had happened after meeting Xi Xian, Helian Wuzi, who had experienced countless reincarnations, shook her head helplessly. In fact, whether it was Helian Wuzi or Chen Shui and the other girls, they had long seen that Xi Xian, this immortal legend, had a problem with her position. And Qinhao, who knew that there was a problem, perhaps because of Shao Feng, the third life, before him, also did not respect an elder from the bottom of his heart. How could they, as Qinhao's women, not feel this feeling? However, including Chen Shui and Hu Meinyang, there was no reaction. It seemed that after Shao Feng appeared, they had silently accepted him. Firstly, Shao Feng's identity. Secondly, Xi Xian's strength and status. Thirdly, Xi Xian's appearance and talent. Fourthly, Xiaofeng's fall. All of these made the girls unable to have any thoughts of ostracizing him. After thinking for a short while, Heli and Wuzi directly turned into a stream of light and approached Chen Hao and Si Xian, who were in the middle of the battle. Chi. In the other three directions, Qin Shui, Hu Mainyang and Long Ting also stepped out of the Dao Mark illusory realm and headed towards Chen Hao and Si Xian. Soon, the four of them gathered together and watched with great interest. Chapter 1136. Hao doesn't have the upper hand at all. He seems to be suppressed. Is he going easy on teacher Si Xian? He didn't use the power of the Dao manifestation immortal fruit tree or the tree of life. Otherwise, teacher Si Xian shouldn't be his match. However, teacher Si Xian is indeed very strong. Her absolute power is several times stronger than Hao's, and her combat skills aren't inferior at all. She's probably the first person Hao has met that he can't gain the upper hand in terms of combat skills. After tens of millions of years of accumulation, he's already reached the realm of being able to move as he pleases. Hao's combat skills that originated from Earth's martial arts world are at best like this. That's not right. Why do I feel that Chen Hao's power seems to be suppressed by a lot? Chen Shui frowned slightly. She had extraordinary senses and felt that even if Chen Hao didn't use the Dao manifestation immortal fruit tree or the tree of life, his absolute power shouldn't be so weak. He was only slightly stronger than them, and not by much. Chen Shui could see that Chen Hao was completely using the mysteries of power and his abnormal physical strength to fight against Si Xian. It seems so. Ito Tai Chi and the 9 true immortals have all left. Could it be? Hao has already released himself from the fusion state, and his avatar has gone out to train alone? Hu Mainyang said after some thought. Before entering, everyone had discussed that Chen Hao, who was far stronger than them, definitely wouldn't be able to train with them after entering. At that time, Chen Hao had said that he would release himself from the fusion state and let the second and third Onimus go out to train alone. Let's take a look. Chen Shui said. Beep, beep, beep. Hearing Chen Shui's words, the four issued an order at the same time. Four warships flew out from between their eyebrows at the same time. Immediately, the four of them looked at each other and entered Chen Shui's warship together. The moment they entered, they fell into the Dao Mark illusion left behind by the ancient war. They did not know what happened after that, but the artificial intelligence system and the battleship, which were non-life forms that were completely high-tech, were not affected by the Dao Mark illusion. They could faithfully record everything that happened in the surrounding hundreds of millions of kilometers. Now, the artificial intelligence and warships had formed a habit of connecting to the outside world in their minds. Entering a dangerous place like the ancient chaos void domain naturally couldn't be blocked. It can't be. When the four girls saw what happened after they fell into the illusion through the simulation of the warship, they were all shocked. I even laughed at teacher Si Xian back then. I didn't expect him to be even more amazing. Long Ting laughed. It's fortunate that we've noticed it now. Before we came in, he even said that his clone was going to bring us along. How could he possibly bring us along? Of course not. Although it's him, I don't want to be taken advantage of by a clone with independent thoughts. To me, it feels like another person. This won't affect Hao, right? Kiss. The four women all felt extremely uncomfortable, terrified, and embarrassed. If one's thoughts, emotions, state of mind, and appearance were all the same, it would still be acceptable. However, this kind of independent thought and behavior of challenging the Venerable One made the four women feel completely unacceptable. Fortunately, the plan that they had discussed with Chen Hao before was not implemented. Now that they knew, it was absolutely unacceptable. Of course, Chen Hao didn't follow the agreement and beat the clone away in advance. Obviously, he also realized this point. Not to mention the girls, even Chen Hao himself couldn't accept it. It should be all under his control. The Spirit Spring Sea has become his 6th life. He still has 3 lives. After the 10th life is born, he will have 4 lives. We have to warn him that it's best to make them all non-human like the Dao manifestation immortal fruit tree. Hu Mainyang said. This should be the focus of several lives' independent experiences and thoughts. That Lu Hui is smart. After the fusion, the real master of the Tao will still be Hao's venerable one. The others are like the experience of reincarnation. They will have an impact, but they won't cause much of a stir. Chen Shui said thoughtfully. Look at how nervous you all are. I don't think it's a big deal. We'll just recognize his venerable one. His clone is very simple. We can come into contact with him, but we can't see him as others. Moreover, we can seduce him appropriately. If Lu Hui can do this, we can also use our clones to fight back and make his clone fall in love with us. The prerequisite is that we don't let the clone take advantage of us. What do you all think? Long Ting said proudly. Just like when you drugged Hao and took a bath in front of him? Chen Shui stared at the thick-skinned Long Ting. Long Ting directly stretched her claws to Chen Shui's waist and said, Little Shui, you know that I'm not talking about that. You are enough. Me? What about me? I didn't do anything to seduce him from the beginning to the end. Look at you. What are you wearing when you're with us? Every time he's around, you're wearing this blue dress. Those beautiful legs of yours make my heart flutter. Long Ting's words instantly made Chen Shui's face turn slightly red. How could this careless person see through such a small thought? Once, see if I don't strangle you to death. Come on. Long Ting slipped away and hid behind Helian Wuzi, who was watching the show. Helian Wuzi's little face, which was as cold as the moon, appeared very calm. Ever since she had completely awakened the memories of the endless cycle of reincarnation, she had always spoken very little. At this time, she naturally wouldn't care about Chen Shui and Long Ting's fooling around. But, what caught Helian Wuzi off guard was that Long Ting, who hid behind her, directly hugged her. What was even worse was that a pair of claws even tapped on both sides of her soft breasts like a chick pecking rice, causing Helian Wuzi to scream out in shock. So bounce it. Little Wu, don't always be like that. I feel that you're more old-fashioned than the legendary teacher Si Xian. He might not even like you like this at all. What are you trying to do? Stay away from me. Hu Mainyang looked at Long Ting, who suddenly charged towards her, and instantly moved away in a flash. At close range, with Long Ting's perverted physical strength and thick skin, Hu Mainyang and the other two had no chance of winning at all. Rouge Horse. Mainyang, you've become an obedient kitty now. Only I, Big Long Ting, maintain my true self, natural self. You're thick-skinned. The three of them said in unison. But when they saw Long Ting raise her chin and look at them full of provocation, the three of them were somewhat moved. True self, natural self. It was only at this time that they realized that they didn't know when it started, but they no longer had themselves in their hearts. Everything they did and everything they thought revolved around him. Chapter 1137. She prayed for him and cultivated crazily for him for more than 10,000 years. When he returned, she placed all her heart on him. It was as if she had become a part of his life. She had lost her sense of self and existence. All of this is Hao's fault. I don't care if you guys go or not. I'm going to satisfy my desire and win a round against him. Otherwise, I won't have another chance in the future. Long Ting put her hands on her waist and puffed out her round breasts as she spoke domineeringly. After she finished speaking, she turned into a ray of light and rushed out of the aircraft. Teacher Si Xian, let me help you. Immediately, Chen Shui, Hu Mainyang, and Helian Wuzi heard Long Ting's clamor. Go! Chen Shui looked at the two of them and said, Go! Hu Mainyang's eyes lit up. If you guys want to go, I'll go too. Helian Wuzi looked at Chen Shui and said, Then let's go together. Chi. The three of them followed Long Ting and rushed towards Chen Hao. Sister Ting, what are you doing? Long Ting, I don't need your help. I alone am enough. When Long Ting rushed over, Chen Hao and Si Xian spoke at the same time. Chen Hao was already having a hard time. If he wanted to defeat Si Xian, he could only wear her down and use his freakish recovery ability to take her down. However, at this time, Long Ting came to add to the trouble. How could Chen Hao be happy? Si Xian felt that she could definitely take down Chen Hao and did not want Long Ting to help. Teacher Si Xian, you lost from the beginning. In a short time, you can't take him down with absolute strength. You're the one who lost. You don't understand his freakish recovery ability. Long Ting said. That's right. Teacher Si Xian will help you too. Chen Shui, Heli and Wuzi, and Hu Mainyang who rushed over were even more straightforward. They did not care if they agreed or not and attacked first. Are you guys serious? Buzz. Chen Hao's body shook and he suddenly retreated. Can you come one by one? Although I'm strong, I can't take all of you at once. Buzz. Chen Hao's figure flashed rapidly as he pushed his great instant shift art to its limits. However, Si Xian's abijna that could destroy the laws of space-time with a wave of her hand caused Chen Hao to be restricted in all aspects. The effect of his great instant shift art was greatly reduced. This was especially so when Chen Hao and the other three had already joined forces to attack from all directions. Chen Shui's sword light was swift and fierce, Chen Hao's chaotic immortal light bloomed, Hu Mainyang's thousands of Dao laws resonated in unison, and Long Ting's majestic blood qi pierced through the heavens. More importantly, the four of them had been tested for a long time. In an instant, they formed a real joint formation to attack. This combat strength was definitely comparable to that of a Dao severing true immortal. Even if he wasn't as strong as Si Xian, there wasn't much difference. Boom boom boom, it's actually true? When Si Xian saw Chen Hao suddenly explode with even more power while facing the combined attacks of Chen Shui and the other three girls, she was a little unhappy that the four girls were causing trouble. She immediately believed Long Ting's words. Don't force me. So what if I'm forcing you? Come on, brother Hao. Long Ting was like a flood dragon emerging from the sea. Her fleshly body carried an incomparably powerful destructive power as she attacked from the front. Eat my spear. In the face of the siege of the five beauties, Chen Hao and the other three girls revealed their ferocious faces. Chen Hao knew that there was no hope for him to say anything. However, although Chen Hao's pressure suddenly increased and he was clamoring, he was feeling great in his heart. The five of them attacked him together, and when he was at his weakest, even if he lost, he would still lose face. It was much better than losing to Si Xian alone. Therefore, Chen Hao no longer held back his strength and continued to waste time. He directly raised his overlord spear and attacked violently. Chi. In an instant, specks of spear light bloomed like stars. Chen Hao raised his strength to the peak. The blood-red crystal light on his forehead bloomed, carrying a terrifying slaughter will. At the same time, the emotional power of the red dust state of mind also spread out from his body. Slaughter will. Including Si Xian, the faces of all the girls changed. Chen Hao's title of Killing God had already resounded throughout the entire ancient chaos world. However, even if they had seen Chen Hao's crazy massacre, they had never really faced Chen Hao's slaughter will. It was also because of this that they did not understand how great of an impact Chen Hao's slaughter will had on the enemy. However, it was obvious that Chen Hao was forced to use all his strength by the five of them. At this moment, when he truly released his terrifying slaughter will, they finally understood what kind of emotion it was. Even if they knew that Chen Hao would not kill them, the five girls were still stunned for a moment. The boundless killing intent seemed to have directly penetrated into the depths of their souls. It made the five of them feel as if they were in a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Pa. It was at this moment that the five girls almost screamed at the same time. Chen Shui, Heli and Wuzi, Long Ting, and Hu Mainyang all felt that their buttocks had been ruthlessly slapped by a huge palm. Si Xian felt as if her buttocks had been ruthlessly slapped by a stick. It was a burning pain. You've lost. Chen Hao's body shook and instantly crossed tens of millions of miles. His complacent laughter resounded in the ears of the five girls. If I wanted to take your lives, you would have been finished by now. If I had known this earlier, I would have released my slaughter will. I didn't expect your willpower to be so weak, Chen Hao felt great. He really did not expect that the release of the slaughter will would be able to capture the minds of the five girls, including Xian in an instant. There was a brief moment of sluggishness. This was completely unexpected. When Chen Hao saw this, he figured out the reason. It was not that the 5 girls' willpower was too weak, but it was caused by the relationship between him and the 5 of them. If he was the enemy of the 5 girls, the moment he released his slaughter will, the 5 of them would definitely not be sluggish. To put it bluntly, it was because they were unguarded and thought that he could not kill them. Therefore, the slaughter will could directly attack the depths of their souls and capture their minds for a moment. Brother Hao, you're acting like a rascal. Come back and fight. Long Ting shouted as she rubbed her buttocks. Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, and Hu Mainyang's faces were red and angry. How could he use the slaughter will on them? Their buttocks were burning with pain. Obviously, when that guy slapped them, he also ruthlessly scratched them with his claws. Even Long Ting's perverted body was in so much pain that she rubbed her buttocks, let alone the 4 of them. However, the 4 girls seemed to have thought of something at the same time and looked at Xian. Puff, what are you laughing at? This? Xian's face was red as she scolded angrily. At the same time, she used her fastest speed to put on a Taoist robe. Although she was protected by a soft armor and was not exposed, the original Taoist robe's buttocks were torn. Chapter 1138. When Xian pretended to glare at the 4 girls, she suddenly burst into laughter like the 4 girls. Her slender fingers and gaze fell on the 4 girls' buttocks. Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, Long Ting, and Hu Mainyang, who were laughing at Xian, changed their expressions and looked behind them. There was a pitch-black claw mark on each of their buttocks, but their robes were intact. There was only a mark that said, "I touched it before." Outside the ancient chaos void, within the vast universe galaxy. After sending Chen Hao and the others into the ancient chaos void, Yi Lan activated the controller's token and directly activated the Sacred Palace's strongest protection. It's time to settle the score. Touching the token, Yi Lan's eyes became sharp. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Immediately, 8 divine consciousnesses were sent out through the controller's token. They penetrated the barriers between galaxies and integrated into the 8 major galaxies except for the tyrants. After doing all this, Yi Lan did not wait for a reply. He stepped out and disappeared from the Sacred Palace. When the white-haired Yi Lan appeared again, he was already at the entrance of the extraterritorial battlefield. The cultivators guarding the entrance of the human race did not notice Yi Lan's arrival. After Yi Lan stepped into the Tao-severing perfected immortal realm and entered the space of the extraterritorial battlefield, no one knew. Yi Lan walked with his hands behind his back. Each step covered billions of miles. The Tao mark pressure of the perfected immortal realm in the extraterritorial battlefield had no effect on him. Endless meteorite fragments were silently penetrated by Yi Lan's figure. What do you think? Dragons and tigers are fighting. Both of them are immortal existences. The Shao clan's patriarch wants to unify the ancient chaos void. How can Yi Lan be as simple as he looks? We can go, but we definitely won't help him. The human race is already powerful, and the 10-direction territory is already under their control. If this continues, no one will be able to stop the human race in less than 1,000,000 years. That's right. Since we've already signed the agreement to advance and retreat together, there's no need to hide. I believe that none of you want the human race to unify the ancient chaos void. Of course, you don't want the Shao clan's patriarch to rule. Now that the 2 tigers are fighting, I think our chance is here. Indeed, our chance is here. But didn't that old fox Yi Lan think of this? It's impossible he didn't think of us. He's gambling. What do you mean? If we all stay in our own domains, no matter how powerful he is, he won't be able to do anything to us within 1,000,000 years. Now that the human clan has taken control of the Shifeng territory, he will have hope when the number of Hongmeng realm cultivators decreases and the human clan becomes stronger and stronger. But now, he clearly doesn't want to wait 1,000,000 years to lure us out. Giving him a chance is also giving us hope. If he succeeds, he will directly unify ancient chaos. He lost. With Chen Hao in the human race, we can't control him. Besides, God of Slaughter Chen Hao's terrifying talent. God of Slaughter Chen Hao. Now, who can stop his growth? When the name Chen Hao was mentioned, the connection between the 8 galaxy masters fell silent. One Daluo Jinxian was just one Daluo Jinxian. However, the threat it brought was no less than that of the strongest controller of the human race, Yilan. The human race's power has been established. Perhaps this is the reason why Yilan is so fearless. After being together for a long time, we must part, and after being apart for a long time, we must unite. Perhaps, forget it. Let's go and see the situation first. Buzz buzz buzz. When the controller's token vibrated, Yilan's lips curled into a smile as though everything was under his control. A crystal light flashed between his eyebrows, and a pendant engraved with the word "ing" appeared in his hand. Gently stroking the pendant, Yilan's eyes sparkled as he muttered to himself, "Ing, he has exceeded my expectations once again. The extraterritorial battlefield, vast universe imparting Tao. This is much, much faster than I expected. This time, as long as I show enough strength, I may be able to break free. Wait for me, wait for me." A mysterious wave of energy burned fiercely within Yilan's body. When he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, his face became even redder, and his aura suddenly soared several times. 1,000,000 years in exchange for half a year, that's enough. Yilan's footsteps suddenly became light and quick. "Old man Xiao, prepare to die." "Old Yi, I didn't think you would dare to come." Boom. Boom 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 boom. 3 months later, 2 old voices collided in the void. Following the fall of the controllers of the tyrants hundreds of years ago, a terrifying battle broke out once again. The white-haired Yilan killed his way into the tyrant's divine temple alone and fought for 3 days and 3 nights with his mortal enemy, the Shao clan patriarch. Countless tyrants controlled by the Shao clan patriarch were unable to withstand a single blow from Yilan. "Yilan, I didn't expect you to hide so well." Good, good, wait for me, I will be back." Want to self-destruct? Didn't expect it? There are many things you didn't expect. Absorb. What shocked the controllers of the 8 galaxies was that after 3 days and 3 nights of battle, Yilan, who had the upper hand, suddenly erupted again just as the Shao clan patriarch was about to self-destruct. At this moment, the 8 controllers were certain that Yilan definitely had the strength of a true immortal king. He suppressed the Shao clan patriarch and directly absorbed him into his mind. Then, Yilan looked at the 8 controllers and sat down cross-legged. He went straight to the point and said, "You are still the controllers of the 8 galaxies. Combine the controller tokens and connect the 10 galaxies of ancient chaos. Open the forbidden lands and sacred lands, and the alliance of the 10 galaxies will establish the ancient chaos college. The 8 of you, old man, and the tyrants will elect a new controller to form the Ancient Chaos Supreme Council. All major events in Ancient Chaos will be decided by the Council through voting. The supreme leader of the Council, Killing God Chen Hao." Killing God Chen Hao? This is the real information about Killing God Chen Hao. Take a look. Yilan directly took out 10 memory lights. The Mortal Emperor, Spirit of all things. The 8 great controllers immediately sucked in a breath of cold air in shock. If you agree, hand over the controller token. If you don't, old man doesn't mind making a move. Yilan said proudly. "Yilan, what's the point of doing this? Our 10 galaxies coexist peacefully, and the segregation of the races has also prevented unnecessary killing. You are too young. Do you really think that the 10 galaxies won't affect ancient chaos? Do you really think that you have exhausted your potential and that your cultivation can only reach this level? Do you really think that ancient chaos is just a small world? The cultivation world has a perfect inheritance since ancient times, but have you ever seen the information of the vanished ancient times? This is because the records and inheritances of our ancient chaos era have all been erased." Chapter 1139. Ancient Chaos. Have you ever entered the deepest level of the ancient chaos domain? You haven't. It's because you haven't that you don't know how strong ancient chaos is. The supreme heavenly Tao is divided into 10 directions, becoming incomplete heavenly Tao. It's like a complete boundless universe. What will happen after ancient chaos is unified? Why is it that the cultivators of ancient chaos are almost certain to die when they enter the great world of Xiandi? You're too young. Other than the old man and the old man, no one else knows the secrets from hundreds of millions of years ago. Who is the true identity of the Shao clan's patriarch? You don't know. I'll give you 30 minutes to think about it. If you're late, the Shao clan's patriarch's true body will bring a greater disaster to us and even the entire ancient chaos. If you don't agree, the old man can only attack you. Yi Lan's words struck the hearts of the 8 galaxy masters, causing them to be overwhelmed with shock. Yilan, Senior, can you make it clearer? The 8 controllers all looked at Yilan in shock as they asked. The Shao clan's patriarch is from the great world of Xiandi. Do you really think he's so easy to be imprisoned by me? I'm only imprisoning his life. His power is gone, and his mission has failed. His true body has escaped into the chaotic space, and is rushing to the galaxy tunnel in the 10 directions domain. If he returns to the great world of Xiandi, we'll have to face another hundreds of millions of years, or even be overturned. What? Take out the controller token and join forces with the old man to kill the Shao clan's patriarch. This is the only hope of our ancient chaos domain. The old man knows that you've reached an agreement to advance and retreat together. As the old man said just now, he can sign the agreement with you first. There's not much time left. Chi-chi. As Yi Lan spoke, a light flashed between his eyebrows, and the human controller token appeared in front of everyone. The 8 commanders clearly saw the life of the Shao clan's patriarch, who had just been restrained by Yi Lan, and a young face faintly appeared in the runes of the token. That young face was the Golden Dragon, who had risen to power in the Tyrants. He was also the commander who had stepped into the 10-direction domain. While he's still in ancient chaos, we'll use the controller ability of the 9-face token and the connection between his 2 lives and his true body. The old man is confident that he can imprison and summon his true body and kill him. Buzz. The human race ruler token suddenly flashed with crimson gold characters and floated in front of everyone. I'll sign it. Sign. Ancient chaos. What will it be like? I'm curious, I'll sign it. Buzz. Buzz 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 buzz. The 8 rulers' rulers' dominion, chaos domain. Yi Lan, ancient chaos. The ancient chaos Yi, SSS. What Yi Lan said was that it was impossible for them to not notice anything at their current location. It was just that the ancient chaos annihilation was simply too mysterious. No one was able to discover any clues. The only place that might have ancient secrets was the ancient chaos domain. However, before they had become controllers, they had gone there before. After becoming controllers, they were no longer willing to experience the terror of that place again. Secondly, the ruler's identity was the key to enter the ancient chaos domain. The only way to enter was to pass the ruler's token to others. In this case, the 8 galaxies were not like Yi Lan and Chen Wuliang, who could casually pass the ruler's token to others. Now, Yi Lan used the ruler's token to form a contract, which also proved his sincerity. They would not refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. In fact, before they came here, they had already expected such an outcome. However, they did not know Yi Lan's true strength at that time, so they were still hoping for a fluke. Divine Consciousness Link, fuse with the token. But, chi. Boom. When the contract was formed, the 9 tokens suddenly bloomed with bright light. 9, the extreme number. The 9 tokens represented the 9 major clans, which were the most basic 9 major clans of the ancient chaos domain. At this moment, after releasing a light and a mysterious aura that seemed to connect the 9 heavens and 10 earths, without the need for Yi Lan and the 8 controllers to control it, it circled and danced together on its own, forming a 9-star alignment. Buzz. The 9 tokens suddenly vibrated. Buzz. Rumble. It was also at this moment that the entire great thousand world of ancient chaos began to tremble. Will it work? Yi Lan stared at the 9 tokens that were gradually fusing and murmured, his eyes full of anticipation. Senior Yi Lan, you mean? Old man Shao won't be able to escape if he doesn't die. If the 9 tokens fuse successfully, the 9 of us will activate our divine consciousness and summon him back through his 2 lives. Old Man is talking about the Tyrant Tribe Ruler's token. The Tyrant Tribe Ruler's token? 9, the extreme number. Ancient Chaos Domain originally only had 9 major clans, but it was formed from 10 major galaxies. The Tyrant Tribe is a derivative of our 9 major clans. Our 9-sided token is the foundation, and the Tyrant Tribe token is the 10th derived token. Now, the Tyrant Tribe token has become an ownerless object. Perhaps, after the 9 tokens fuse, the Tyrant Tribe token can be summoned. It's here. Yi Lan, who was explaining to the 8 of them, suddenly shouted with a hint of excitement in his eyes. It's here? The 8 of them were puzzled and followed Yi Lan's gaze to the 9-sided tokens that were fusing. Chi. It was also at this moment that a pillar of light suddenly shot out from the center of the 9 tokens that were constantly moving closer to each other like a string of pearls. The beam of light contained endless changes in time and space. It directly connected heaven and earth and disappeared into the endless void. Immediately, a stream of light seemed to cut through the endless space barrier. It was so fast that even Yi Lan could not see it clearly. Almost instantly, an identical token that exuded an endless ancient aura appeared in the middle of the 9-sided tokens. What else could it be other than the Tyrant Tribe Ruler's token? Drip your blood essence and control it together. Yi Lan's old voice had a hint of excitement. Okay. Chi-chi-chi-chi-bus. Chi-chi-chi-chi. Rumble. Rumble. What happened? What's going on? At this moment, there was a terrifying upheaval on every planet in the 10 major galaxies. The Tao laws and the energy of heaven and earth that permeated between heaven and earth suddenly became turbulent and surging. At the same time, the divine temples of the 9 major galaxies all bloomed with dazzling immortal light and expanded infinitely. They rose into the void and immediately converged in the direction of the extraterritorial battlefield. Trace to the source, absorb. While the cultivators of the entire vast thousand domains of ancient chaos were in a state of chaos, staring in horror at the terrifying fluctuations that had appeared between heaven and earth, Yi Lan, who was speeding towards the extraterritorial battlefield with the holy temple of the Tyrant Tribe, suddenly activated his divine thoughts and let out a soft cry. Chapter 1140. Assimilate. Assimilate. The 8 controllers, whose minds were connected to Yi Lan's, shouted at the same time after Yi Lan. The auras of the 9 of them were at their peak. Ugh. Impossible, impossible. Yi Lan, don't even think about it, don't even think about it. Ugh. No matter how fast the Shao clan's patriarch was, without the controller's token, he could not activate the space-time gates that the tyrants had all over the chaotic star territory. It was not something that he could condense in a short time. Flying in the chaotic space, he estimated that he would be able to escape into the 10-direction territory and enter the galaxy tunnel in 15 minutes at most. None of the guardians at the entrance of the 10-direction territory could block his attack. Yi Lan and the controllers of the 8 major galaxies were at the tyrant's divine temple. They could not activate the tyrant's space-time gates either. If they wanted to chase after him, they could only enter the chaotic space. However, they did not chase after him immediately. This made the Shao clan's patriarch think that he had succeeded in deceiving them, but he did not expect a terrifying devouring power to suddenly come at this time. What made him even more frightened was that his soul origin seemed to be bound, and he could not even struggle. The power to control the vast thousand domains in the chaotic star territory, you say it's impossible. Yi Lan's voice suddenly rang in the Shao clan's patriarch's ears. How is it possible? The tyrant's token. 9 summons 1. It's simpler than the 2 summons 7. Old man, it's been billions of years, it's time to end it. Yi Lan ha? Do you really think that you can break your imprisonment after killing me? 100,000 years. Oh no. There should be 50,000 years left. My master will investigate my situation. If I die, there will be a stronger existence coming. Pa, you will die even faster. It's indeed his people. Yi Lan's expression suddenly became a little ferocious as he said sternly. You actually know? Unfortunately, it's too late. Pa, you want to kill me with your own hands? Don't even think about it. Boom, boom, boom. The Shao clan's patriarch suddenly let out a crazy cry. Starting from the soul origin imprint, his entire body started to burn. However, under the envelopment of the controller's power that had fused with the 10 tokens, he couldn't cause any waves. However, his physical body and soul exploded under the confinement of the controller's power and were annihilated into ashes. Boom. Yi Lan bit his lips to the point of bleeding. He forcefully endured the overflowing hatred and closed his eyes. The moment he closed his eyes, the 2 lives of the Shao clan's patriarch that were imprisoned in the controller's token were directly turned into meat paste, their bodies and souls destroyed. The Shao clan's patriarch was dead. Yi Lan's mortal enemy, who had been holding back Yi Lan for hundreds of millions of years, was finally killed today. The heaven and earth anomaly in the ancient chaos Great Thousand World lasted for 100 years before it gradually weakened. Every cultivator could clearly feel that the world had changed. The heaven and earth spirit chi and heavenly Tao laws in every corner of the 10 galaxies were 10 times or even 100 times stronger than before. At the same time, just like when the overlord of the tyrants had fallen, the vast and boundless vast thousand domains in the ancient chaos universe experienced a complete change. The barrier between the extraterritorial battlefield and the barrier between the 10 galaxies also disappeared. There was no longer an obvious boundary. However, the most shocking change came from the 10 directions domain. The entrances of the 10 galaxies in the 10 directions domain were actually combined like 10 tokens, and the Hongmeng Qi and Heavenly Tao laws in the 10 directions domain were strengthened by dozens of times. However, all the Hongmeng Supremes who went to investigate the situation discovered that after the entrance to the 10 directions domain, the galaxy tunnel leading to the great world of Xiandi had been completely sealed. The cultivators who entered could only see the entrance to the ancient chaos Great Thousand World. During this 100 years, the tyrant's cultivators fearfully elected a Tao-severing perfected immortal with the strongest cultivation and a relatively good relationship with the higher-ups of the tyrants. He became the overlord of the tyrant's chaotic galaxy and one of the top 10 members of the Supreme Council of the ancient chaos Great Thousand World. It was also at this time that the overlords of the 10 galaxies issued several orders that shook the entire ancient chaos Great Thousand World. The most sensational one was the ownership of the head of the council. By now, all the cultivators in the human galaxies already knew that the ancient chaos Great Thousand World was unified, and the highest ruling body was the ancient chaos Supreme Council. The 10 members were the overlords of the 10 galaxies. However, the ownership of the president was still not announced. Everyone guessed that it would definitely fall into the hands of the strongest overlord of the human race, Yi Lan. After all, Yi Lan had single-handedly facilitated this unification with his terrifying strength that was close to that of a perfected immortal king. Only Yi Lan could intimidate the overlords of the other 9 galaxies. However, to everyone's surprise, the announced president of the council, or to be exact, the overlord of the ancient chaos Great Thousand World, was actually Killing God Shinhao. Killing God Shinhao's name had been like the sun in the sky in the entire ancient chaos Great Thousand World ever since the battle in the extraterritorial battlefield. The Daoyuo Golden Wonderland had the terrifying strength of a Tao-severing perfected immortal, and it was not as simple as an ordinary Tao-severing perfected immortal. Anyone could be sure that once Killing God Shinhao stepped into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, he would most likely be in existence comparable to the overlords of the 10 galaxies. However, that was only after Chen Hao stepped into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. Now, the overlords of the 10 galaxies had actually publicly announced that Killing God Chen Hao would be the president of the council. This was more or less beyond everyone's expectations. This news caused the entire ancient chaos Great Thousand World to boil, but no one dared to voice out their doubts because this was a joint decision made by the overlords of the 10 galaxies. As for the cultivators of the vast universe-proud Heaven Association, especially Chen Hao's brothers and sisters, they were in a state of ecstasy. There was also another piece of news that made the young great overarching golden immortals and primordial chaos supremes of the 10 major galaxies in the ancient chaos world excited. The rulers of the 10 major galaxies would join forces to establish the ancient Chaos College. The god of slaughter, Chen Hao, would be the honorary principal, Yi Lan and the other rulers of the 10 major galaxies would be the vice principals, and the top Dao severing true immortals of the 10 major galaxies would be the main lecturers. They would recruit the young geniuses of the entire ancient chaos Great Thousand World. Another news was that the 10 galaxies would share their resources, and various cultivation holy lands, forbidden lands, and secret realms would be open to the entire ancient chaos Great Thousand World. Rumble. Rumble. In the ancient chaos Great Thousand World, the huge palace shook violently. Chen Hao sat cross-legged alone, completely unaffected by the tremors. Endless immortal light flashed, and thousands of Dao laws tumbled. The aura of his bloodline, true yuan, soul power, and will were all extremely powerful. 100 years. By now he, proud heaven, Si Xian, and the 9 perfected immortals had already stepped into the ancient chaos Great Thousand World for 100 years. Except for Chen Hao's original body, everyone else, alone or in groups, had already gone a certain distance. Ignoring the 9 perfected immortals and Si Xian's group, Chen Hao had always been a little deeper than proud heaven's group. Chapter 1141. He was like a nanny. No matter who it was, once there was a real danger to their life, he would be the first to arrive. If someone couldn't keep up with the group, he would give them special treatment. Occasionally, when he was free, Chen Hao would immerse himself in his own enlightenment. Even so, Chen Hao's progress was astonishing. He was advancing step by step on his own path. This was the situation when the 2nd to 6th Animus were still immersed in their own experiences. Hiss, hiss, it's about to stop? The entire ancient chaos domain shook for 100 years before gradually calming down. Finally, when the palace Chen Hao condensed completely stopped shaking, Chen Hao slowly opened his eyes and murmured. The shaking of heaven and earth has affected the ancient chaos domain for 100 years. What happened in the outside world? It really makes one curious. Chen Hao murmured. The ancient chaos domain was completely isolated from the outside world. Unless Yi Lan activated the controller's token to summon them back, Chen Hao and the others couldn't go out even if they wanted to. It could be said that this was the heaven and earth prison where the controller of the 10 major galaxies of the ancient chaos domain imprisoned the most heinous criminals. It was more terrifying than death. However, the shaking of heaven and earth had actually lasted for 100 years, which shocked Chen Hao and the others. Chen Hao had also discussed it with Si Xian, the 9 true immortals, and the others, but the conclusion they reached was that something major had happened in the entire ancient chaos Great Thousand World. As for what exactly had happened, it was not something they could guess. However, since Yi Lan didn't summon them out in advance, it shouldn't be a disaster. Chen Hao, hiss. The little nurse, Lu Hui, suddenly came out from between Chen Hao's eyebrows and sat directly on Chen Hao's lap. She wrapped her arms around Chen Hao's neck. Again! Chen Hao frowned when he saw the little girl. That's not it. Can't you comfort my elder sister? She has a knot in her heart. When cultivating, she's always distracted, so her progress is very slow. Who's to blame? Isn't it because you forced me to do it? How good would it be if you let me cultivate in the 2nd anima? You just had to. Now you reap what you sow. She is already your woman. How can you say that? I'm angry. Nurse Lu Hui pouted. Unfortunately, Chen Hao closed his eyes. I'm really angry. Chen Hao remained unmoved. I was wrong. Brother Hao Ingxiong, it's already like this. Please help my sister. Don't blame me for being so stubborn. It's because you don't care about the other special nurses. Although they're all you treat them differently. I don't want my sister to be wronged. I've always had a good relationship with her since we were young. You men don't covet your sisters-in-law. She already gave my sister to you. You can't just pick up your pants and ignore her. Pooh. Chen Hao was finally amused by Nurse Lu Hui's words. He flicked her forehead and said, What kind of thoughts do you have in your head? Am I that kind of wretched man? Fine, I'll immerse myself in the 2nd anima and give it a try. I'll be honest with you, my main body really is, temporarily at most, lusting after her. I told you before that I can't do this and that I'll talk about it after I fuse with her. But you just had to. Now, I'll give it a try. I don't know if it'll work or not. Okay. If you can untie the knot in my sister's heart, how about it? Chen Hao stared at the nurse who was becoming more and more intelligent. His eyes were evil and filled with expectation. How about this? The nurse's face turned red. After saying that, she suddenly opened her cherry mouth and bit down on Chen Hao's shoulder. Ah! Chen Hao cried out in surprise. Soon after, his eyes widened. Bite me? Really? It'll work if you do it. This. Nurse Lu Hui turned into a ray of light and entered Chen Hao's mind. After entering, she patted her chest and couldn't calm down for a long time. However, when she thought of Chen Hao's excited look, her eyes revealed a proud expression. What a little vixen. Chen Hao couldn't help but think of the nurse, the spirit of all things reincarnated from the immortal emperor, giving him. Suddenly, waves of heat surged in his dantian. Appetite and lust are part of human nature. This is normal. Chen Hao quickly put away his thoughts and his mind became clear. He muttered to himself, let's solve Lu Qian's problem first. Not long after entering the ancient chaos desolation domain, under Lu Hui's coercion, Chen Hao took in Lu Qian, who had an average aptitude. Lu Hui's intention was obvious. Lu Qian, who started late and had ordinary talent, wanted to catch up with the others. Without a doubt, dual cultivation with Chen Hao was the fastest way. As for whether or not it would affect her future cultivation, she didn't care. She had to improve first and then build a foundation. At worst, she could turn into a mortal or reincarnate to make up for it. Although Chen Hao tried to persuade her, Lu Hui insisted on her idea. In the end, Chen Hao had no choice but to agree. Since they couldn't escape from this, and all the girls knew about this, Chen Hao didn't have to insist. If he insisted, he would be pretending to be serious. When a man faced a woman, especially a beautiful woman, how many good birds could there be? A ray of light flashed, and Lu Qian suddenly appeared in front of Chen Hao. But Chen Hao, Xiao Qian, I realize that as your cultivation level increases, you become more and more beautiful. Is it? Of course it is. Come, let me test your understanding. Chen Hao, sure. I didn't pay attention before because we didn't have any common experiences, but it's different now. Chen Hao, sure. I'm him and he's me. There's no difference. The grudge in your heart shouldn't exist. Look at Xiao Hui. She knows everything and can transcend everything. I pay attention, you pay attention. I'm me. Immerse yourself in another me, and that's me. Open your mind. As Chen Hao spoke, lotus flowers bloomed from his lips and turned into the sound of the great Tao. There was no other way. Chen Hao knew that Lu Qian's knot in her heart was related to him. However, the real crux of the problem was the crack in Lu Hui's heart between the second life and his original body. With Lu Qian's current realm and state of mind, she couldn't understand the mysteries of the 9 lives profound technique. Therefore, Chen Hao didn't pay attention before because Lu Qian's heart wasn't with his original body. How could he pay attention? Therefore, Chen Hao could only use the great Tao to remove the knot in Lu Qian's heart. Save people. Hiss. Lu Qian's Taoist robe was instantly removed by Chen Hao. Her graceful body was pulled into Chen Hao's embrace. The in-depth examination soon began. Nurse Lu Hui, who had been paying attention to the situation, closed her legs tightly together. Her eyes were wide open, and her tongue was sticking out. Her body was uncomfortably hot. Chapter 1142. This girl had grown up in a high-tech environment that was similar to Earth. Her mind was already very mature. How could she withstand this kind of stimulation? Under normal circumstances, Chen Hao would block her perception at this time. However, this time, the shameless Chen Hao seemed to have forgotten. Oh my God, Big Sister is so fierce? Big Sister actually bit me. So embarrassing. She even told me that it was disgusting. So crazy. Is it really that comfortable? But my nose is about to bleed. I can't watch. Phew. I've finally entered the cycle. Thank goodness. The young nurse fell limply within the palace within the world of Chen Hao's mind, and she heaved a long sigh of relief. She seemed even more exhausted than Lu Qian in a great battle. Her Taoist robe was completely drenched, and her beautiful face was even covered in dense red clouds, causing her to be extremely tender and beautiful. The feeling was mutual. Lu Qian, who had been awakened by the great Tao Sanskrit chant, obtained unprecedented satisfaction from the fusion of yin and yang with Chen Hao. Her spirit and body had truly fused together. Chen Hao did not need to do it deliberately. He was wholehearted, charming and intoxicating, but he was able to quickly close the gap between them and improve through dual cultivation. He quietly changed Lu Qian, who had average aptitude, from the bottom. At the same time as they went deeper, they also changed Tantai Lian, Leng Ninghuan, Leng Ningle, Chen Shaoqing and Xiao Mei, who were relatively less talented. 500 years passed quickly. To Chen Hao, it was a charming journey for nannies. In just 500 years, everyone broke through the layers of Tao mark illusions and arrived in front of a powerful barrier that was blooming with an ancient aura. Si Xian, the 9 true immortals Ao Tian, and the others all gathered together at this moment. Chen Hao's 2nd to 6th lives were temporarily taken into Chen Hao's mind and imprisoned. There was no other way. Chen Hao did not want to quarrel with himself. Similarly, for the 5 clones to improve normally, he naturally would not fuse with them. It's only been 500 years. I didn't think we'd all reach the end of the 1st level. A Tao severing true immortal said in shock as he glanced at Proud Heaven and the others. Proud Heaven and the others, especially Xiao Mei, were well aware of the situation. But now, the aura that Xiao Mei was emitting shocked the 9 Tao severing true immortals and Si Xian. They knew that it was Chen Hao who had brought it on. Pan Dong Lu, Pan Dong Xing, Long Yi, and his Tao partner Tian Xan were all much more talented than Xiao Mei, but now, Xiao Mei's progress had left them in the dust. Having a Tao companion like Chen Hao was truly something to be envied by others. Fortunately, in these 500 years, Chen Hao had given them special treatment in pairs, enlightening them with the Sanskrit chants of the great Tao and endless pressure. Only then did they not fall behind. As for the group of big-ass beauties that Ito Tai had brought along, Chen Hao did not care about them at all. However, their starting points were relatively high, and they were all from the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. With the help of a freak like Ito Tai, they barely managed to keep up with the group. There are still 500 years left. In my opinion, Chen Hao, why don't you preach to them, us here alone? Si Xian said after some hesitation. For someone like Si Xian, whose cultivation level was higher than Chen Hao's, listening to the Tao chants once was enough. Even if Chen Hao preached again, it would be useless to Si Xian and the 9 Tao severing true immortals before Chen Hao made a breakthrough. Si Xian's original intention was to enter the 2nd level. However, Si Xian did not say that. She even replaced the words, them, with us. The 9 Tao severing true immortals' mission was to protect Chen Hao, Proud Heaven, and the others. Naturally, they would not express any opinions. Moreover, they had entered the 2nd level before and knew how terrifying it was. Unlike the 1st level in the outer region, they had not encountered any god's consciousness in 500 years. However, the 2nd level was where the god's consciousness of an ancient almighty being could be encountered at any time. Not to mention, there were still 500 years left in the agreed time with Elon. Although Proud Heaven and the others were powerful, other than Ito Tai, they were all Daluo Jinxian. Moreover, their strength was uneven. Once they entered the 2nd level, they would most likely encounter problems even if they stayed together. Si Xian's suggestion was undoubtedly the best choice. Teacher Si Xian, I don't think it's necessary. Chen Shui suddenly said. I also think that this is not the way to go. Hu Mainyang looked at Chen Hao and said. We have already been training for 500 years. The remaining 500 years is just enough for us to digest and consolidate our cultivation. That's right. I have the same idea. Senior brother, take me into your mental world. Coiling Dragon said directly. Boss, I want to go in too. I'm about to collapse. I have to stop and meditate for a while. Brother, take me in. Chen then said directly. Brother, you've given us 500 years. Leave the remaining 500 years for yourself. Otherwise, we'd rather never follow you. We all know what you're thinking. We also want to walk side by side with you. However, the Tao really needs to be walked alone. We don't want you to slow down because of us. Moreover, brother, you're making us too tired, mentally tired. We feel that as long as we can keep moving forward and our lifespan can keep up, that's enough. It won't be too late to help us when you've reached the peak. Chen Hao wanted to open his mouth to speak, but Proud Heaven and the others interrupted him one by one. It was as if they had discussed this beforehand. They did not give him a chance to speak at all. It was only when Qin Yan said this sentence that Chen Hao understood what was going on. Clearly, they had discussed this before they gathered. However, they excluded the powerful Si Xian and the 9 true immortals. Little Yan, aren't you thinking too much? Can't you feel that I've also improved a lot in the past 500 years? Moreover, I think this is very good. Chen Hao finally found a chance to speak and looked at the others. Boss, we're not good. Don't insist. When you weren't here, we looked forward to your return every day. When you came back, we didn't feel much in the 10-direction territory and the extraterritorial battlefield. But now, boss, I don't want to follow you anymore. I'll take little Lon Lon with me to help you manage Proud Heaven. You can come back and meet me when you're free. Give me some treasures and teach me some divine abilities and lost techniques that are suitable for me. Lan Feng choked as he pulled Shui Lan, his Taoist companion, and said, You little brat, have you tasted the sweetness of life and stopped thinking about improving yourself? Chen Hao looked at Shui Lan and stared at Lan Feng. 5th update, seeking monthly votes. Chapter 1144. How could that be? Little Yen said that when you reach the peak of martial arts, even the chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. As the son of Providence and one of your closest subordinates, how can I not ascend to heaven? Now, I just need to keep moving forward. I don't want to die of old age when you reach the peak. Moreover, boss, I feel like I don't exist beside you. When I commanded the army of 10,000 people in the foreign battlefield, it felt so good. Cough cough. Lying about that feeling. Boss, don't blame me. I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. What's the saying again? People have to live their own lives. Yes, that's it. Boss, I'll be your brother for life, but I also have to live my own lives. If I stay by your side, no matter how fast my cultivation advances, if I meet little Lon Lon now, she won't even look at me. Lan Feng, what do you mean? Shui Lan asked in a low voice. Cough cough. Lan Lan, I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. Lan Feng hurriedly comforted Shui Lan, but his eyes were fixed on Chen Hao. Live my own life. You're right. Although I know you're talking nonsense and don't want to affect me. Chen Hao frowned slightly as he stared at Lan Feng and said, walking together on the path of the great Tao. Perhaps I really didn't think it through, or perhaps I should change my method. Have you all decided? Chen Hao's eyes swept across Pan Long and the others. Yes, senior brother. Pan Long said in a low voice. Boss, your talent is too abnormal. Before this, we only wanted to fight side by side with you, so we didn't think about this. However, after 500 years, we've seen it clearly. You're willing to sacrifice for us, so how can we be your burden? What kind of brothers are we? Boss, if you were us, what would you do? If you're our brother, just agree to our request. After 500 years, we think we're more suitable to be your support. Du Jing said with a heavy expression. All right, all of you come in. Chen Hao didn't insist. He slowly glanced at everyone and said softly, Buzz. As he spoke, a resplendent light shone from his glabella, enveloping his women and siblings. Soon after, they all disappeared into his mental world, leaving only Si Xian and the 9 true immortals by his side. Itoda, who had advanced to the late stage of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm, also had the strength to break into the 2nd level, although it was a little dangerous. However, Itoda didn't ask to stay. If he stayed, it would mean that Chen Hao would have to take care of him. Furthermore, he had already discussed it with Proud Heaven and the others. Naturally, he wouldn't stand out at this time. Up to now, although Itoda still maintained the same title, in fact, There was no master-servant contract between him and Qin Hao. It was impossible for Qin Hao to sign another contract with him. Although he hoped to be like before and always be immersed in Qin Hao's mind, it was obviously impossible. Because he was already Qin Hao's brother. After putting everyone away, Qin Hao raised his head and stared at the endless void, standing there for a long time. Xi Xian and the 9 true immortals didn't expect such a thing to happen. However, as bystanders, they could see clearly that such a decision was undoubtedly the best choice for everyone and Qin Hao. They could also see Qin Hao's helplessness. Especially at this moment, the figure standing there with the loneliness in his eyes made Xi Xian and the 9 true immortals dare not speak lightly. The Great Tao was ruthless, and the Great Tao walked alone. On the path of cultivation, no matter how much a cultivator struggled, it seemed that they couldn't escape from such a trajectory. Going against the heavens, if you didn't move forward, you would fall behind. As one's age increased, one's comprehension would become less and less agile. Appropriately slowing down one's pace was a matter of tension and relaxation. However, if one stopped moving because of everyone, it couldn't be measured by whether one's lifespan was exhausted or not. It was very likely that it would affect one's highest achievements in the future. Experts were destined to experience a lonely journey and move forward alone. Qin Hao, who was far more talented than his siblings, was even more so. Got it? Qin Hao frowned slightly. After standing there for a full hour, a trace of excitement suddenly appeared on his face, breaking the silence. Got what? Xi Xian, who was originally affected by Qin Hao's mood and had been paying attention to Qin Hao, suddenly frowned and asked. You'll know when the time comes. Qin Hao's lonely mood seemed to have been swept away. After glancing at Xi Xian, he said rather mysteriously, Have you entered the 2nd level? However, you don't have to worry about my strength. I have no problem persevering for 500 years. Xi Xian said confidently. Hearing Xi Xian's words, Qin Hao looked at the 9 true immortals. After seeing the 9 true immortals nod at the same time, he said, All right, let's go, we'll enter now. I've been looking forward to the God's will of the ancient Almighty for a long time. Qin Hao's pitch-black eyes were like sharp swords piercing through the air, blooming with 2 rays of excitement and sharpness. He, who seemed to have found a solution, was completely alive at this moment. Qin Hao took the lead and rushed towards the barrier, disappearing in a flash. Let's go! Xi Xian and the 9 true immortals followed closely behind. Buzz! 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 Soon after, Qin Hao, Xi Xian, and the 9 true immortals appeared on the 2nd level of the ancient chaos void. Boom! Rumble! Die! At the instant Qin Hao and the others entered, a pressure that could collapse the heavens and obliterate the earth directly pressed down like a mountain, and dense blood and killing intent assaulted their faces. The scene before their eyes was numerous dark red clouds of lead, enormous hands that blotted out the sky, brilliant sword lights, resplendent fist lights. All sorts of terrifying divine abilities and laws fluttered about in the sky while numerous figures appeared, and the shouts of battle that resounded through the heavens and the earth were deafening. Boom! 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 Almost in an instant, Xi Xian and the 9 true immortals could not help but activate a powerful protective immortal light. What a terrifying Tao mark illusory realm! Xi Xian shouted, and her slender jade-like fingers bloomed with crystal light, attacking a terrifying sword light that was pressing down on her. The 9 true immortals were also caught in the battle at the same time. Although their minds were clear and were not confused by the illusory realm created by the Tao mark pressure, they still had to condense their divine ability laws to fight against it. This state was inevitable before one could break through the illusory realm. Otherwise, even if it was an illusory realm, the effect of the attack would be as real, especially in the aspect of the mind. Otherwise, once one's mind was lost and truly integrated into the illusory realm, one would fall into a state of eternal damnation, and the final result would be one's own death. It's indeed much stronger than the first level. Qin Hao's eyes bloomed with a dazzling golden light, piercing through all the illusory realm. He stood proudly on the spot, and no matter how the terrifying Tao mark pressure approached him, his aura did not change at all. But it still doesn't seem to be enough. Chen Hao murmured. Chapter 1145. Back in the vast thousand primal chaos world, Chen Hao had spent hundreds of years in the Immortal Sutra's sacred land. He had even broken through the last level of the Immortal Sutra's sacred land. Facing the pain of the pressure, his state of mind and will had been honed to a terrifying level. This was the strongest aspect of his realm. In the first level, all the Tao mark illusions had no effect on Chen Hao. But now, although the second level was much stronger and could reflect Chen Hao's state of mind and make him fall into the Tao mark illusions, it was still within Chen Hao's tolerance and did not have any effect on tempering him. Therefore, Chen Hao immediately used the Fiery Golden Eyes ability, causing all the illusions to disappear. All that was left was the pure pressure of the Tao marks and the ancient aura that filled the air. Chen Hao hesitated for a moment as he sized up the desolate, messy, and devastated ground that was covered in ravines. Then he scanned the surroundings. The 9 true immortals and Si Xian who were locked in battle flashed past Chen Hao's eyes. There was no need to talk about the 9 old fellows, but Chen Hao did not linger on Si Xian for even a moment. In the beginning, the young and vigorous Chen Hao might have fantasized about the penetrative ability of the fiery golden eyes. But now, Chen Hao disdained such actions that disturbed one's heart. Nothing. The scene within 100 million miles appeared in Chen Hao's eyes. What disappointed Chen Hao was that he did not find the legendary God's will. I'll train alone for now. Chen Hao sat down cross-legged. Crystalline light flickered on his forehead as his 2 second and third animus, as well as his 3 outsider clones, the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, the tree of life, and the spiritual spring sea, flew out from his mind. You messed with my woman. The moment the second anima appeared, it immediately roared at Chen Hao. Obviously, it had discovered Lu Qian's abnormality. Fuck, what do you mean by yours? Aren't you me? Scram to the side and train. If you continue to blabber, I will never give you the chance to think independently. At worst, I will destroy you and refine a new life. Chen Hao scolded without hesitation. Here you go. Although Chen Hao's mouth was full of praise, he still conjured up a complete memory beam and sent it into his second anima's forehead. It was a memory of all the feelings and insights he had experienced with Lu Qian, as well as all the other details. As expected, after being connected to the memories, Second Life's expression looked much better. He glared at Chen Hao and said, "At least you have a conscience. I will definitely be stronger than you. In the future, I will be the one in control. I am the one who has gathered the faith of millions. You have a backbone. I like people like me. Work hard. As long as your mind is strong enough, your influence will naturally reach home, and I will naturally favor your wife more. Damn, why do I feel that this is a little evil? Get out of here. Just you wait." Boundless faith power enveloped Second Life. In an instant he pierced through the void, as if he didn't feel the pressure of the surrounding Tao marks. He allowed it to descend upon him and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Chen Hao, you are me and I am you. Let me tell you, no matter what, I have to return to the primal chaos world. This is my obsession. Even after fusing, it will still be my obsession. Third Life didn't wait for Chen Hao to flip out. He directly used the berserk demon state and flashed away. Hee, this Lord Handsome One, Teacher Si Xian is so hot. Yes. This Lord will remember to take care of it. Don't mistreat yourself. I think that is what you think. I am just an emotional life form that you have suppressed. All of you shut up and scram. Chen Hao's brows were full of black lines. Damn it, was he that shameless? 2 human doppelgangers was one thing, but 3 non-human doppelgangers were too shameless. However, regardless of whether Chen Hao admitted it or not, the truth was that the 5 doppelgangers were derived from the emotions hidden in the depths of Chen Hao's mind. In fact, they were the release of his own subconscious mind. His body could be easily controlled by the powerful will of his true body. However, after the doppelgangers became independent thoughts, their personalities became their fundamental existence. Furthermore, they were directly expressed, forming the main personality that belonged to the doppelganger's independent thoughts. Damn it. I'm like a lunatic. Fortunately, I was able to fuse. If I couldn't, wouldn't I suffer from the legendary schizophrenia? Chen Hao shook his head. Immediately after, he focused his mind and took the initiative to merge into the illusion of the Tao mark pressure. It had existed for a long time. Even if the Antiquity Chaos Desolation domain had an independent circulation system of heaven and earth spiritual qi, the Tao mark pressure left behind by the great battle of ancient almighties had weakened a lot with the passage of time. Otherwise, with the strength of him, Si Xian, and the others, they would definitely not be able to contend against it. The strength of the pressure was meaningless to Chen Hao. However, the profoundness contained in the Tao mark was the only way to comprehend the ancient divine arts to Chen Hao, or to all cultivators. In fact, the vast majority of the divine arts circulating in the ancient chaos vast thousand domains came from the inheritance and Tao marks of ancient relics. There were very few absolute arts that were truly created by cultivators. When he was at the first level, Chen Hao spent his free time comprehending the profoundness contained in the Tao mark. The Daoyuo Golden Wonderland was the best realm to learn from. When he was at the Hongmeng realm, his focus was already on his own Tao. Once he cut his Tao and stepped into the true immortal realm, all the absolute arts would be integrated into one. He would almost lose the ability to completely control an inheritance of an absolute art. He could only learn from it and integrate it into his own Tao. When he displayed it, it would definitely bring his own color. This was also the reason why Yi Lan could comprehend the first 3 lives of the 9 lives profound technique from the Shao clan's ancestor, but he could not cultivate it himself. Similarly, the reason why many genius cultivators imprison themselves in the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland for a long time was also because they realized that the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland was a crucial period to comprehend many divine arts laws and Tao laws in addition to condensing the embryonic form of the great world to perfection. The more solid the foundation was, the stronger one would be when they stepped into the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. Not long after Chen Hao was immersed in his comprehension, the 9 true immortals were the first to break through the illusion. The 9 of them had entered the second level after all. Even though they entered at different locations, the strength of the Tao mark illusion and the profound mysteries contained were different. They were all at the edge of the second level. The strength was about the same. With their previous experience, they were naturally much faster than Si Xian. God of Slaughter Chen Hao is really powerful. When the 9 of them saw that Si Xian was still immersed in the illusion while Chen Hao had already entered a state of comprehension where he had forgotten everything, they were all shocked. Especially after the 9 of them used the personal intelligence system that Chen Hao gave them to investigate the information, they were even more impressed. Chapter 1146. I always thought that his strongest points were battle power, battle skills, comprehension, and physical body. I didn't expect his mental state cultivation to be his most terrifying existence. That's right. Such a powerful Tao mark illusory realm actually didn't affect him at all. This is really unbelievable. Don't forget, this is only his main body. There are also 5 clones, each of them is very abnormal. After fusing, how strong will he be? And he is only Daoyuo Jingxian now. Controller Yi Lan spared no effort to gather fate and faith for him. I think it won't be long before our vast universe galaxy will be his world. That's for sure. Oh, have you sensed that the laws of heaven and earth in the entire chaotic ancient desolation realm have undergone a subtle change since the beginning of the last 100 years? Additionally, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth seems to have become much denser. I originally thought that it was because the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the region that we entered just happened to be denser. However, the region with the weakest spiritual qi of heaven and earth was even denser than the region with the strongest spiritual qi of heaven and earth when I entered the second floor. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have cared. I thought that it was because of killing God Chen Hao and the others' strong fate. Could it be that the world shaking caused a change? It's very possible that it lasted for 100 years and even affected the ancient chaos void region. I'm afraid it's the fluctuations of the entire ancient chaos void region. It can't be? You guys all felt the Heaven Dao laws changing? That's right. You didn't? I thought that I had the possibility of making further progress and was preparing to go into seclusion for a period of time. It turns out that everyone is the same. It must be that our vast universe galaxy's fate has become stronger, and the Heaven Dao law's restrictions on us have loosened a bit. Alright, it's definitely not a bad thing. Right now, we can't even guess what happened. Let's go, we'll split up and scout the surroundings. Protecting the two of them is the most important thing. Chi 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 chi. The 9 Severance true immortals immediately turned into streams of light and flew towards the depths. Dao Mark illusory realms were everywhere, but after countless years, these Dao Mark illusory realms had formed distinct coverage areas. Within 10 billion li, there was basically the same Dao Mark pressure illusory realm. Once broken, there would be no effect within 10 billion li. What the 9 true immortals feared the most was the divine sense of a god. After all, the strength of the Dao Mark illusory realm had a pattern that could be found. The deeper one went, the stronger it would become. However, there was no pattern to the divine senses. If one's luck was bad, then one might encounter it at any moment. Once one encountered it, then it would be extremely terrifying. Even they had to choose to avoid it at the first possible moment. Otherwise, if they were locked onto by the divine senses of the divine senses, then it would practically be death. The only fortunate thing was that very few God intents had gained sentience. 99% of God intents were obsessions or evil intents left behind by ancient Deneng when he was on the verge of death. Obsession was better, while evil was more ferocious. However, no matter which type it was, all of them lacked agility and were rather sluggish. Moreover, they basically only moved within a certain range. Once they escaped the range enveloped by the divine sense, they wouldn't be pursued again. Otherwise, no one would dare to enter the second floor. You're not affected? An hour later, Si Xian finally saw through the Dao Mark illusory realm. When she saw Chen Hao sitting cross-legged with Dao laws revolving around him, she checked the records in her brain. Immediately, she looked as if she was looking at a monster and leaped to Chen Hao's side. "Teacher Si Xian, do me a favor," Chen Hao said with a faint smile. "A favor?" Si Xian was a little surprised. "They're often in my great mental world, so the gains they can obtain are already very limited. I think that if they enter your great mental world, then the gains will be even greater. I can give you the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood that I condensed. It will also be very beneficial to you. The comprehension of my 3 great immortal sutras is contained in it. Your third anima is also comprehended in it." "Oh? That's it?" "Yes, is that okay?" "It's okay, but I want to know your true intentions." Si Xian stared at Chen Hao with resplendent eyes. "All right. As you can see, the outer perimeter is really meaningless to me. I'm preparing to go deeper. My greatest strength is my ability to withstand pressure. But if I go deeper and encounter a divine intent, it'll attack my soul palace and affect my mental world. I can withstand it, but I'm afraid they can't. Do you want to die? Do you think this is the first level? What did my master say? A divine intent? You want to fight a divine intent? I'm the only one who knows my situation best. To tell you the truth, when I was in the Earth Immortal realm, I fought a divine intent. I have a feeling that the only thing that can improve me here is a divine intent. Don't worry, I'll be selective. With my speed and perception, it'll be very easy for me to escape. Also, I have an undying body and the 5 lives. Even if my true body is destroyed, it won't affect my foundation." "Chi. Thank you." Chen Hao didn't allow Si Xian to refute him. As soon as he finished speaking, a ball of resplendent light that contained the profundities of time and space floated to Si Xian. After that, he turned into a gust of wind. Si Xian stomped her feet in anger, but Chen Hao's aura had completely disappeared from her senses. Not taking it? If she didn't take it, once the essence of space and time was exhausted, the space that Chen Hao extracted from the mental world would directly collapse. Ao Tian and the others, as well as Si Xian's third life, Xiaofeng, would definitely be heavily injured. This was a completely shameless act. But Si Xian couldn't refuse in a fit of pique. Truly a scoundrel, pervert. Si Xian muttered to herself with a complicated expression. Thinking about it carefully, Chen Hao's actions weren't without reason. The Dao Mark illusory realm in the periphery didn't affect him at all. It was truly too perverted. Through the records in her brain, she saw that the 9 true immortals who came here took some time to break through the illusory realm. Under such circumstances, it was indeed not suitable for him to stay with them. In addition to his undying body and 5 perverted clones, Si Xian had a feeling that even if her master Yi Lan made a move, it would be difficult to truly kill this guy. And divine intent was indeed an attack that mainly targeted the mental state of the Soul Palace. It was also the best target to temper one's mental state, soul, and willpower. Still sealed? When Si Xian absorbed the space and time essence that Chen Hao condensed into the mental world, she wanted to see everyone's situation out of curiosity. But what made her angry was that other than Chen Hao's so-called corpse Mountain and Blood Sea and her third life, Xiaofeng, Aotian and the others were all sealed by mysterious runes. Even her divine sense couldn't penetrate through. Chapter 1147. It's actually improved so much? Soon after, Si Xian was shocked again. Her third anima was currently suffering from a terrifying emotional impact amidst the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood. However, she was completely focused on comprehending the mysteries of the 3 great immortal scriptures. Her aura was dozens of times stronger than the last time they had a quarrel. She wasn't much weaker than Aotian and the others. It had to be known that Xiaofeng had stepped into the peak late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland not long ago. Back then, she was much weaker than Aotian and the others, but now, the adventurous spirit of challenging the limits was rooted in Chen Hao's soul. Chen Hao had been a babysitter for 500 years with Aotian and the others. Although he was comfortable, charming, and gentle, and didn't have any impatience, he still felt that something was missing. But now, he had found the balance between walking the Grand Dao alone and being the same. Chen Hao immediately regained his original nature. How could he be willing to leisurely advance? Hiss! An imperceptible breeze shuttled back and forth in the endless illusory realm. Occasionally, a golden light would flash and all illusions would dissipate. Buddha is in the heart, don't seek recklessly. The spirit mountain is only in your heart. Everyone has a spirit mountain pagoda, only cultivate in the spirit mountain pagoda. An ethereal voice that sounded like a whisper suddenly came from the distant void and drifted into Chen Hao's ears. Divine intent? Chen Hao, who had been moving forward for a month, suddenly had a golden light shoot out from his eyes. He saw through the illusions and a bald monk wearing a kasaya appeared in Chen Hao's line of sight. This poem. It was the first time he saw a divine intent in the ancient chaos domain. Chen Hao couldn't help but feel excited. However, after a brief moment of excitement, it turned into shock. The monk paced back and forth with a serene expression. He kept repeating 4 lines and a poem. And this poem was shockingly from Earth's Huaxia. Chen Hao was already shocked to see the bald monk's God's will, and the monk's attire was similar to that of the monks on Earth. The fact that the monk was reciting a poem from China on Earth shocked Chen Hao even more. This God's consciousness is the manifestation of the obsession left behind by the ancient Almighty when he was on the verge of death. Could it be that the ancient Almighty of the ancient chaos is related to Earth? The big monk with a peaceful expression was naturally not a manifestation of evil thoughts. At this moment, he was pacing and chanting. Clearly, he was in the midst of comprehending the Dharma that he was unable to comprehend when he was alive. Chen Hao forcefully suppressed the shock and bewilderment in his heart. He slowly and gently withdrew from his state of mind, which had merged with all things in the world, and appeared far away in the range of the divine consciousness. Without concealing his aura, Chen Hao walked towards the big monk step by step. His state of mind was immersed in the profound meaning of Buddhism. After 9 steps, Chen Hao's body was already emitting a faint 9-colored brilliance. Buddhism, the light of nature. Master, how are you? Buddha is in your heart, do not seek recklessly. Spirited Mountain is only in your heart. Everyone has a Spirited Mountain Pagoda. Only cultivate in the Spirited Mountain Pagoda. Master, are you from Earth? Buddha is in your heart. Do not seek recklessly. Spirited Mountain is only in your heart. Everyone has a Spirited Mountain Pagoda. Only cultivate in the Spirited Mountain Pagoda. Master, I'm also from Earth. Buddha is in your heart. Do not seek recklessly. Spirited Mountain is only in your heart. Everyone has a Spirited Mountain Pagoda. Only cultivate in the Spirited Mountain Pagoda. Chen Hao continued to ask questions. His tongue was like a lotus flower, and the sound of Tao filled the air. However, the divine consciousness was unmoved as if it did not hear him. If Si Xian and the 9 genuine immortals saw how bold Chen Hao was, they would be so shocked that their eyeballs would fall to the ground. Although this big monk was not a manifestation of evil thoughts, it was still a legendary divine consciousness. Once disturbed, its obsession would inevitably invade the soul of the cultivator. Like a plague, it would cause the cultivator to fall into its obsession and be unable to extricate themselves. It would lead to the assimilation of the origin of one's soul. Their physical body and soul would completely become a feast for the divine consciousness and be devoured completely. Fuck, isn't this just an NPC? Chen Hao felt a headache coming on. Neither born nor destroyed, neither moving nor still, Chen Hao's eyes flickered with golden light as he stared at the divine consciousness and frowned. If it was dead, its obsession would exist forever. If it was alive, its soul origin and physical body had long been annihilated. It was just a manifestation of its obsession, a divine consciousness derived from it. If it was moving, it was completely unconscious. It mechanically repeated a cycle of pacing and chanting, but it was also still. If it was still, it was moving. What a pity! If this big monk was born with spiritual intelligence, I would definitely be able to ask some secrets. Ancient chaos, Earth. There must be some kind of connection. Otherwise, it would not be so coincidental. Moreover, Yi Xian came from ancient chaos to Earth, and I came from Earth to ancient chaos. There must be some kind of connection in the unseen world. Chen Hao frowned and pondered. He was almost certain of his guess, but he could not guess what was going on and what the specific connection was. The heart is Buddha, and Buddha is the heart. Seeking Dharma from the heart is like seeking fish from a tree. The external path is also. Big monk, perhaps we are from the same hometown. It is fate that brought us together. Junior will help you release your obsession and let it return to its original place. Let it enter the cycle of reincarnation again. After Chen Hao finished speaking, light suddenly bloomed from between his eyebrows and swept toward the divine consciousness. Buzz. When Chen Hao's divine sense came into contact with the god's divine sense, the monk seemed to have woken up abruptly and turned to look at Chen Hao. Amitabha. While Chen Hao was still in shock, the big monk suddenly put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. His voice seemed to penetrate the 9 heavens and 10 earths, majestic and vast. At the same time, endless golden light bloomed from the big monk's body. At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly felt an extremely terrifying pressure crash down on him. With a flash of golden light, the divine consciousness took the form of the big monk and disappeared between Chen Hao's eyebrows. Chen Hao had long been mentally prepared to provoke the divine consciousness, but when this obsession left behind by an ancient almighty attacked the depths of his soul, Chen Hao still spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Chen Hao's mind bloomed and opened the mental world of his soul residence. At the same time, the vast Tao sound of the 6-syllable mantra suddenly resounded throughout his mind. Boom boom boom. Thief thief thief. At this moment, in Chen Hao's mental world, mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, Tao laws tumbled, and terrifying explosions instantly filled the entire space. Countless cracks appeared on the barrier of the mental world in an instant. At the same time, on Chen Hao's body, which was already sitting cross-legged, it was as if mines hidden under his skin had been detonated. Blood splattered everywhere. Like an egg, like a fetus, like a damp, like a transformation. Like color, like colorless. Like a thought, like a thought. Like a thought, like a thought. I will lead you to the ultimate nirvana and annihilation, like the annihilation of countless boundless beings. After a brief moment of shock, Chen Hao forcibly focused his mind and put aside the thought of death. All of his mind and thoughts were immersed in reciting the supreme Buddhist scriptures. Fourth update, seeking monthly votes. Chapter 1148. At this moment, the only one who insisted on staying in Chen Hao's mind was the reincarnation of the immortal emperor, the little nurse, Lu Hui, who was not afraid of death. Her face was pale and she trembled in fear. She was not affected by the pressure of any god's will, but the terrifying explosion of the great world in Chen Hao's mind and the rapid cracking of the barrier of the great world made the young nurse scared out of her wits. Her heart was in her mouth. True immortal king. Lu Hui's mind spread out, sensing the terrifying obsessions that filled every corner of Chen Hao's mind. In her soul, some kind of memory seemed to have awakened, and she murmured, "Immortal king obsessions. Liang Wuchen, Dong Aoshue." Chen Wuliang and Han Mei, who had changed their names to Liang Wuchen and Dong Aoshue, looked excited. They looked at the two tokens flying over quickly and stretched out their hands to receive them respectfully. Your aptitudes are not bad. There's still some room for improvement. Work hard. Yes, Dean. Chen Wuliang replied respectfully. Many cultivators around looked at the two of them with a trace of surprise. To them, the life aura of the two of them was already frighteningly old. Moreover, their performance in the selection competition was mediocre. At best, they barely managed to enter the Odd Armor Academy. However, what was unexpected was that when the dean gave the two of them the sect tokens, he actually praised them. The strength of this pair of Tao companions is very ordinary. Do you see anything special about them? Yes, of course. The life aura of the two of them is probably tens of millions of years old. They're very old. Is there a need to say that? I mean the powerful part. The elders praised them in public. Idiot, that's what I said. Think about it, they're so old, but they're still so ambitious. They're competing with a group of little brats like us. Their spirit is commendable. How can the dean not encourage them? You're really sarcastic with your words. How? I'm just telling the truth. It's not that I'm looking down on them, but they're only at the fourth tier of Tao severing at such a young age. They're the same as us, and their battle prowess is far inferior to ours. Furthermore, they're dual cultivators. In my opinion, they'll at most reach the sixth tier of Tao severing in this lifetime. I don't think so. Although their life auras are old, they are full of vitality. In my opinion, it must be because the greater thousand worlds they came from were too weak, and the restrictions of the heavenly Tao limited their improvement. I watched a few of their battles before, and both of them had obvious improvements in every battle. No way. You watched all their battles? What's so surprising about that? Don't you know about Brother Zhao Yin's hobby? That's true. I forgot about it. The cultivator who spoke suddenly recalled Zhao Yin's shameless hobby and came to a realization. He couldn't help but look at the beautiful middle-aged woman, Dong Aoshue, who had an old aura of life but only looked like a middle-aged woman. She does have some taste. Aoshue, let's go. Chen Wuliang said after Chen Wuliang took the token and the two of them fused. Han Mei nodded slightly and immediately turned into a stream of light, entering between Chen Wuliang's eyebrows. Immediately, Chen Wuliang left directly. Due to the difference in the laws of time and space, Chen Wuliang and Han Mei had just entered the great world of Xiandi for 100 years. At this moment, Chen Hao and the others had just stepped into the ancient chaotic universe. After 100 years, with their understanding of the great world of Xiandi and Yilan's instructions before they came, Chen Wuliang and Han Mei finally chose to enter the sect. Chen Wuliang's realm and strength were second only to Yilan and the Shao clan's patriarch in the vast universe galaxy and even the 10 major galaxies in the ancient chaos universe. However, in the great world of Xiandi, they were ordinary people. If it weren't for the fact that the great world of Xiandi had a complete law restriction, it would be difficult for them to move an inch. There were too many people who were stronger than them. Even cultivators of the same realm made Chen Wuliang, who was insufferably arrogant in the ancient chaos universe, feel ashamed they were old and weak. Such mockery brought great pressure to the two of them. What made Chen Wuliang even angrier was that although Han Mei was almost middle-aged, her appearance was still charming. In this situation, if they were in the ancient chaos universe, it wouldn't arouse the covetous eyes of anyone at all. After all, she was already Chen Wuliang's Dao companion, and she was already the mother of his child. However, in the great world of Xiandi, there were too many young people who cut their Dao to become perfected immortals. Moreover, they didn't have a Dao companion. There was no emotional sustenance in their hearts, only the venting of their desires. The charming Han Mei undoubtedly attracted the covetous eyes of many perverted guys. If it weren't for the law restriction, Chen Wuliang would have vomited blood because he didn't have enough strength to protect his woman here. How much of an impact would this have on the arrogant Chen Wuliang? Due to helplessness, Han Mei usually stayed in the great world in Chen Wuliang's mind except when necessary. Chen Wuliang quickly compromised and chose to step into the sect to obtain protection. "This is our palace." Chen Wuliang followed the induction of the token and soon entered a huge palace. Sensing the aura in the palace, Chen Wuliang was excited. At the same time, he took out Han Mei from the great world in his mind. Wuliang, according to the space-time law gap that Brother Yi mentioned, 2,800 years have passed in our vast universe galaxy. After Han Mei came out, she didn't seem to be interested in the powerful aura in the palace and said directly, "Yes, it's still early. What's wrong? I regret coming here. Don't worry. I'll become stronger soon. For the time being, I can only let you suffer a little." Chen Wuliang said, "I don't feel wronged. It's just that, after coming here, I really feel that we're old. I can't adapt to the great world of Xiandi at all, and I don't have the obsession to bravely advance. Moreover, I can't help you much, and I'll make others look down on you. Han Mei, what's wrong with you? How about I don't appear in the future? I'll meditate in your mind's great world and slack off for me. Your progress is very fast. I believe that in tens of thousands of years, you might be able to break through to the 6th level of cutting path. At that time, your age won't be considered old compared to them. Of course. However, I won't break through so quickly. Coming here, I can feel that with my current realm, there's still a lot of potential to be dug out. In the same realm, I can't be the best, but I can at least be above average, right? Brother Yi seemed to be very awesome in the past. I'm too bad. I won't have the face to see him when I go back. I know. What I mean is, if you have the chance, just find a Dao companion who can help you. Han Mei, are you kidding? Chapter 1150. Wuliang, I'm not joking. I really feel that I'm too lousy. I'm affecting you, don't talk nonsense. I'm not in the mood and I don't have the desire. No matter how lousy you are, you're still my wife. Even if you're an ordinary person, I won't despise you. I used to be flirtatious, but I'm past that age. Don't say such things again. I know what you're worried about. At worst, we'll cultivate quietly in the sect for a while. If there's a mission, you can come to my mind world or wait for me here. When the 100,000 years are up, we'll return to ancient chaos and never come back. Chen Wuliang said. Are you serious? Of course. Before I came here, I was indeed very ambitious. But now that I'm here, I'm just a nobody. If we came here when we were Zenith Heaven Golden Celestials or when we just became Primordial Supremes, perhaps the situation would be better, but not by much. I can't help but be impressed. In this place, let alone me, even if Tianxi came, he would at most be a first-rate genius. It's hard to be a top-notch genius. In the 10 galaxies of ancient chaos, he was second only to Yi Lan and the Shao clan's patriarch. However, after coming here, he couldn't even reach the middle level. First, he was too old. He had lived for tens of millions of years, but he was only a Dao-severing perfected immortal, and he had a cultivation partner. For the cultivators of the great 1,000 worlds of the immortal emperors, this was too inferior. They should have found a mountain to quietly enjoy life and retire. However, in order to seek protection, Chen Wuliang had to enter a third-rate school. Even so, he was barely qualified. Second, it was fine that he was old, but his combat strength was only mediocre in the same realm. Combining these 2 points, although Chen Wuliang didn't want to admit it, he knew that his aptitude was indeed very ordinary in the great world of Xiandi. Of course, Chen Wuliang also knew that the main reason was the restriction of ancient chaos. Now that there was no restriction of ancient chaos's heavenly Tao, he could certainly improve quickly. However, it was too late. Being a Tao-severing cultivator meant that he had missed the best time to shape his Tao, which was like missing the best age to learn. His Tao had taken shape. No matter how much he improved, it was difficult to change the basic embryonic form. I wonder how Hao is now. Hearing Chen Wuliang mention Chen Hao, Han Mei's expression became a little gloomy. Don't worry, old brother Yi has placed all of his hopes on Tianxi. Even he prays for Hao day and night. Nothing will happen to him. I only hope that he can successfully undergo nirvana and return to vast universe galaxy through the call of faith. At that time, my wish can only be fulfilled by Tianxi. No matter what, we have to get him here as soon as possible. Chen Wuliang said. The two of them didn't know that Chen Hao had returned to ancient chaos not long after they left. They also didn't know that Xue Mei had stepped into the Milky Way tunnel leading to the great world of Xiandi in order to find them. At the same time, what they did not know was that the unification of the ancient chaos Great Thousand World and the removal of the barriers between the 10 galaxies had caused a fundamental change in the ancient chaos Great Thousand World. Heaven Dao, Spacetime. That was when Xue Mei entered the Starry River Tunnel, and Chen Hao and Proud Heaven entered the Yorwild's realm, and the Kiliacosm of worlds began to tremble. Since then, the space-time law of the ancient chaos Great Thousand World and the great world of Xiandi had become completely unified. They were completely equal. In the Great Thousand World, it was basically impossible for the space-time law to be completely equal. However, the ancient chaos Great Thousand World and the great world of Xiandi had become completely equal. What was going on? Bang! 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 Chen Hao's body exploded and blood splashed. His internal organs, meridians, and dantian were severely cracked. His skin and flesh were torn open. Chen Hao's mind, on the other hand, was almost completely invaded and occupied by the will of the true immortal king. Only a tiny bit of his remaining consciousness was still crazily chanting the profound meaning of the Buddhist scriptures that Chen Hao himself had comprehended. The nurse was so nervous that her face was pale and cold sweat dripped down her back. However, at this moment, there was nothing she could do to help. This was the battle between Chen Hao's soul imprint and the will of the gods and true immortals. They were all fighting in the deepest part of the soul palace and were completely intertwined. Although the little nurse was the reincarnation of the immortal emperor, due to the restrictions of her realm and her awakened abilities, she was temporarily unable to help Chen Hao. Besides, Chen Hao had told her not to do anything. Chen Hao, come back, all of you come back. I'm in danger. The immortal king's will is invading. However, when she sensed that Chen Hao's mental world was cracking more and more, and that Chen Hao's physical body was about to collapse, the young nurse finally couldn't hold it in any longer. She used her consciousness to activate her artificial intelligence and sent out an urgent cry for help. Little Hui, I'm already rushing over as fast as I can. Second Life replied. Little beauty, do I need you to tell me that? By the time I get back to you, it'll be too late. Third Life said. Fuck, what bullshit immortal king's divine will. I'll devour it in a matter of minutes. Just you wait. Don't panic, I've already killed 2 immortal kings, although they shouldn't be immortal kings. Fourth Life said arrogantly. The Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree's most powerful ability was its devouring ability. Its innate ability was to condense thousands of Taos. No matter how strong the pressure was, it would be useless against it. It was nothing more than Chen Hao's original body's comprehension of the laws of the heavenly Tao that limited his ability to devour the pressure of the laws of the heavenly Tao. I'll be there soon. Don't worry, little girl. How dare you touch my handsome brother? You're asking for it. Don't worry, as soon as I'm here, my handsome brother's body will recover immediately. As for the rest, there's Tao manifestation and spiritual fountain. This was the reply of the freakish fifth life's tree of life. Little Hui, don't worry, I'll be there soon. With my endless energy, I'll grind the immortal kings to death. Don't worry. Sixth life's spiritual fountain replied. Hurry up, hurry up. Lu Hui was slightly surprised, but she soon understood. Although Chen Hao's original body had been separated from his fifth life and formed a separate consciousness, they had been separated after they had truly merged. The connection between the origins could no longer be severed. Most likely, they had sensed Chen Hao's danger the moment he was in danger and had rushed over. Bang, 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 creak, rumble. The terrifying explosions in his body and mind intensified, and Chen Hao's situation became more and more dangerous. Original body, Little Hui, I'm here. Less than an hour later, the second anima pierced through the air. As it flew through the air, it let out a roar. Boundless power of faith condensed into the Milky Way of the nine heavens, which poured down toward Chen Hao, who no longer resembled a human. Scram! Put it away from me! Merry Christmas, brothers and sisters. Chapter 1151. But at that moment, Second Life and Nurse Lu Hui were both stunned to see that Chen Hao, who was on the verge of collapse, suddenly let out an unquestionable curse. At the same time, Second Life suddenly felt his mind being controlled by the main body. He couldn't go against the main body's decision. In an instant, an endless amount of faith power poured back into his mind, causing him to freeze in place. Chen Hao, Nurse Lu Hui trembled as she called out. What's the rush? The obsession of a true immortal king isn't fake, but it's just a consciousness that hasn't given birth to sentience. After countless years, it's weakened by a lot. I'm just completely immersing myself in it, trying to comprehend it and see if I can get any useful information. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Nurse Lu Hui opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She suddenly felt hurt. She was scared half to death, and her little heart was about to shatter. She had waited so long for reinforcements, but this guy actually said such words. It was really too shameless. Second Life was so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall and die. Fuck, he'd finally found a chance to show off in front of Lu Hui, but this shameless main body had done it on purpose. How could he not be depressed? Shameless. You made us worry for nothing. Handsome main body. Hello. I didn't want to swear, you're so infuriating. Next came the four doppelgangers, each more depressed than the last. The abnormal tree of life even said, hello. However, the five doppelgangers were shocked deep in their hearts. All this time, when they existed as separate consciousnesses, they felt that their unique talents and strengths were not inferior to the main bodies. In fact, they were even stronger. However, under the control of the main body could split and merge whenever he wanted. If he wanted to cut off their comprehension of the laws of divine ability, he would cut them off. If the main body was a flower, they couldn't even be considered green leaves. The tree of life, the Tao manifestation immortal fruit tree, and the spiritual spring water sea didn't really matter. After all, they weren't humans, and didn't have any unique experiences after they were born. At most, they just felt that they were stronger. However, the second and third animus had a lot of complaints. The Second Life was the little nurse Lu Hui, Lu Qian, and the women who gave birth to two daughters for him. Especially the most beloved Lu Hui and Lu Qian, they were robbed by this sovereign. As for the others, they were sent to the cold palace by this Chen Hao. How could he be happy? When the third life of spiritual intelligence was born and independent consciousness appeared, the first woman he recognized was Nguyen Tan Lan. She was also the only woman he had obtained. However, when his original body left the boundless chaos world, he did not even say a word to her. No matter why Nguyen Tan Lan was with him, she was still his first woman. How could he treat her like this? Moreover, he had no intention of returning to the chaotic Great Thousand World. He was also unhappy. It had to be said that the second anima and the third anima had rushed over as quickly as they could with the intention of rebelling. Saving the original body was a given, but taking advantage of the fact that the original body was heavily injured to take over the position of the leader in one fell swoop was even more important. As for letting his original body collapse, they had never thought of it. Even if he had an independent consciousness, he was still connected to the origin. No matter what, he was still their own. How could they let themselves die? Most importantly, if his original body died, their strength would be greatly reduced. This was unacceptable no matter what. All of you, scram. In the future, don't come back without my call. Do you think you can escape my detection with that little trick of yours? If you have the ability, then become really strong and I will submit to you. Chen Hao didn't care about the 5 clones' gloominess in the slightest. He directly gave the order, and the 5 clones were so angry that they vomited blood and left. The little nurse Lu Hui pouted in Chen Hao's spiritual world. She was obviously very angry. Little Hui, I didn't mean to make you worry, but I really didn't have time to tell you. After all, this is the divine thought of a true immortal king, isn't it? Actually, as long as you carefully sense the strand of my divine thought, you should understand that I will be fine. The divine thought's attack is an attack on the origin of the soul. As long as my consciousness is not destroyed, then my physical body and spiritual world will not collapse no matter how serious the injuries are, right? I don't know. But I can understand. A girl in love will have her IQ drop by 99%. This time, we are even. You promised me last time, but you went back on your word. What? You were the one who thought wrongly. I wanted to bite you. The little nurse's pretty face immediately turned red as she quibbled. Last time, for her cousin Lu Qian, she had promised Chen Hao to bite him. However, after seeing Lu Qian's bold and powerful performance and Chen Hao's demand for payment, she could not do it no matter what. Therefore, she really did bite Chen Hao a few times. Let's call it even. Seeing that Chen Hao was silent, the little nurse hurriedly added, That's more like it. Little Hui, let me ask you something. Did you feel anything when you saw the divine thought of this monk? What did you feel? For example, you felt very familiar, like you knew him. Nope. The divine thought of an ancient true immortal king, and it's from your chaotic universe. How would I know him? Oh, I know. Do you think he is related to Earth? Lu Hui suddenly thought of something. By now, Lu Hui already knew that she was basically the reincarnation of an immortal emperor. Moreover, Chen Hao had specifically asked him about the illusion that had appeared when the two of them had truly connected their souls the last time. However, Lu Hui could not answer. She had not awakened any memories of Earth, the Moon, or even the Sky River sector. What she had awakened was only the laws of inheritance that came naturally as her cultivation base and strength increased. Smart. But I really didn't feel anything. Chen Hao, do you really think I'm related to Earth? I should be the reincarnation of an immortal emperor from the Sky River sector. How could I be related to Earth? Maybe the illusion that appeared last time came from your subconscious. Impossible. It must be yours. Although I don't know what's going on, I feel that the ancient chaos boundless world, the chaotic boundless world, and even your Milky Way galaxy, and even the immortal emperor's boundless world that we're about to go to, might be related to Earth. But the outline of the great Tao and the Buddhist scriptures. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. One day, all the mysteries will be solved. I'll start refining. This monk, I've released his soul, but other than the divine thought's obsession, there's not a single bit of extra information. After Chen Hao finished speaking, the remaining wisp of consciousness suddenly began to grow stronger. Soon, it went from being passive to being active, and was immersed in devouring and refining the divine thought. Merry Christmas, today's update. Chapter 1152. Along the way, Chen Hao comprehended and cultivated. As the Tao mark illusions he encountered grew stronger and stronger, the number of God intents increased. This made Chen Hao feel that there must be some kind of connection between the ancient chaos boundless universe and Earth. Unfortunately, the second level of a true immortal king's god intense was already the highest realm. Moreover, Chen Hao had never encountered a god intent that had given birth to sentience. However, as Chen Hao continued to go deeper, he gradually gained a vague understanding of the Great War of the ancient times. The Dao mark illusions left behind by the ancient powerhouses and the god intents that were born allowed Chen Hao to see the shadows of the 9 great races. They seemed to be able to confirm the factions in Earth's ancient myths and legends. The stars moved and the flowers bloomed and withered. 500 years passed in the blink of an eye. Almost there, chi. When it was almost time for the agreement of 1,000 years, Chen Hao recalled his 5 clones. However, he still did not merge them and only absorbed them into the great world in his mind. 8,000 years, Si Xian and the 9 true immortals, who were far away from Chen Hao, did not continue to go deeper after breaking through the Dao mark illusions. What a freak. The distance he went in was at least 10 times greater than mine. How strong are the Dao mark illusions there? There must be a lot of god intents. During this time, Si Xian had the 9 true immortals carefully exploring the path. Coupled with her good luck, she was able to avoid the god intents in advance and did not encounter any real danger. However, during these 500 years, she still contacted Chen Hao several times. Through her personal computer, she roughly knew where Chen Hao was now. Forget it, I won't contact him. At this time, Si Xian wanted to contact Chen Hao and check his location, but she resisted in the end. Even she herself had discovered her own abnormality. She did not talk about love, nor did she talk about love, but why was her heart always on him? Was it because of his freakish talent and strength, or something else? Si Xian did not know. However, she knew one thing. Before meeting him, she had been looking forward to quickly growing up in the third life and quickly stepping into the ranks of true immortals. This was because her original body had no room for improvement. But ever since he met Chen Hao, the Sanskrit Great Tao, the 9 Lives Profound Technique, the 3 Great Immortal Scriptures, many things that she could not learn from her master, Yi Lan, were presented before her. For a cultivator, this was like opening up a brand new path, giving her new passion and anticipation, as if she had been reborn. I've already lived for tens of millions of years. For tens of millions of years, whether it's my true self, the second anima, or the third anima, I've never felt this way before meeting him. But now, is just a little brat. Even his father calls me teacher Si Xian. The more Si Xian thought about it, the more confused she became. As the Buddha had said, a single thought of a person would have 84,000 worries. This was the realm of life. People were often troubled, no matter how big or small. If one could conquer their mind, one could become a Buddha immediately. A day later, in the sky above Chen Hao, Si Xian, and the 9 true immortals, the space-time gate of Yi Lan's token arrived as scheduled. The 1,000-year experience in the ancient chaos wilderness was finally over. What surprised and puzzled Chen Hao, Si Xian, and the 9 true immortals was that the space-time gate that appeared this time seemed to be much more powerful than when they had entered. Whether it was the aura or the profound meaning of space-time it contained, they had all improved tremendously. There was no need to carefully sense it at all to clearly feel that the changes were too great. However, what they did not expect was that a series of even more shocking things were yet to come. Stepping out of the space-time gate, they did not return to the divine temple of the human race, but to a huge palace that was 10 times larger than the divine temple of the human race. This was one of the reasons. Secondly, the rich spiritual qi of heaven and earth and the heavenly Tao laws immediately shocked Chen Hao, Si Xian, and the 9 true immortals. Chen Shui and the rest of Ao Tian's group were released from the great world in Si Xian's mind. When they were released by Chen Hao and appeared one after another, they were also shocked speechless. Thirdly, and what shocked Chen Hao and the others the most was that Yi Lan, who was standing with a smile, had 9 extremely powerful cutting Tao true immortals by his side. Moreover, they were clearly not of the human race. Greetings, Master. What made Chen Hao almost fall to the ground was that Yi Lan actually took the lead in saluting him with cupped fists. Immediately after, the 9 powerful true immortals from the various galaxies followed suit and saluted him. What the fuck? Not only was Chen Hao stunned, but Si Xian, the 9 true immortals who followed them, and Ao Tian and the rest of Ao Tian's group were all stunned. What was going on? Amidst the clouds, Yi Lan slowly explained all the changes in the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds and the current situation. Chen Hao and the others felt as if they were in a dream. The ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds, which had been divided for hundreds of millions of years, was actually unified by Yi Lan so easily. The body and soul of the Shao clan's patriarch had been destroyed, but the Shao clan's patriarch's true identity turned out to be from the great world of Xian Di, and there was an even stronger existence behind him. Such a situation cast a shadow over the temporarily peaceful and prosperous ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds. After a long talk, Chen Hao and the others understood the current situation of the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds and made adjustments to their previous decision. What made Chen Hao feel ridiculous was that he didn't know anything and was inexplicably pushed to the position of controller by Yi Lan. No matter how much Chen Hao objected, in the face of Yi Lan's determination and the insistence of the 9 true immortals, Chen Hao, who was only from the Daluo Golden Wonderland and was regarded as the reincarnation of an immortal emperor, could not shirk away. In the end, the 10 of them agreed to Yi Lan's plan of temporarily holding the position of controller. Everything in the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds was still decided by Yi Lan and the 9 true immortals for the time being. After all, Chen Hao was still young, and his realm was only that of the Daluo Jingxian. It was impossible for him to be in charge of the entire ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds. However, Chen Hao, who had inexplicably become the principal of the No. 1 Academy in the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds, did not escape from his 1,000 years of Dao teaching in the vast universe Great Thousand Worlds. Moreover, it was arranged to be held in the No. 1 Academy in the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds, and the 10 true immortals cast spells at the same time to condense space-time laws. The 10 years of Dao teaching became 1,000 years of Dao teaching. Proud Heaven, Huyan Aobua, and the other original brothers and sisters had all become the top geniuses of the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds. To be more precise, the Proud Heaven Association had over 10,000 people who had passed the selection of the top geniuses of the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds to become students of the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds. This time, in addition to the top geniuses of the ancient chaos Great Thousand Worlds, Chen Hao's Dao teaching also included the peak late-stage Grandmass Supremacy Realm experts and Dao severing true immortals of the 10 major galaxies. The scale of the Dao teaching had reached an unprecedented scale, and it was several times larger than the Dao teaching of 1,000 years ago that was limited to the vast universe Great Thousand Worlds. First update, begging for monthly votes. Chapter 1153. Chen Hao was just a golden immortal of the Great Firmament, but he had the titles of Killing God Chen Hao, President of the Proud Heavens Association, Controller of the Ancient Chaos Great Thousand Realms, Principal of the Ancient Chaos Great Thousand Realms, Principal of the Ancient Chaos Great Thousand Realms. Due to Yi Lan's request, as well as for his own face and the future of the Ancient Chaos Universe, Chen Hao had no choice but to bring out all of his trump cards. His 5 avatars were all used. His true body preached the Tao, the great Tao's Buddhist chanting, the lotus flower blossoming, resounding through the heavens and earth. The second anima bloomed with a river of faith, covering the entire space. The third anima filled every corner with the enlightenment of the demonic realm. The fourth anima's Tao manifestation, Immortal Fruit Tree, seemed to connect the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Its branches, leaves, and tentacles spread out endlessly, condensing and blooming the myriad heavenly Tao laws. The fifth anima emitted endless vitality, causing all things in the world to come back to life, old trees to sprout, and old trees to bloom. Old cultivators once again bloomed with vitality. The sixth anima's spirit spring sea was like a vast ocean, providing boundless spiritual energy support to all the cultivators present. 10 years, under the 100 times faster space-time laws, was equivalent to 1,000 years of preaching. Chen Hao could be said to have put in a lot of effort. His true body and his 5 avatars, apart from the second anima, were exhausted to the point of hovering between life and death. They had no choice but to stop countless times to recover themselves. There were simply too many cultivators and too many powerhouses. If Yi Lan and the 9 rulers hadn't arranged for other supplies, Chen Hao wouldn't have been able to last for long. The only exception was the second anima. The more the power of faith was released, the more vigorous it became, and the more powerful it became. Without a doubt, the heaven-defying strength that killing God Chen Hao displayed had won over more and more believers in the process of preaching the Tao. The special nature of the power of faith was that the feedback it received was far greater than the release of the power of faith. After 10 years of teaching with the help of Yi Lan and the masters of the 9 galaxies, Chen Hao condensed countless runes and Tao marks in the number 1 Academy of Ancient Chaos, which was also the highest level of the Ancient Chaos Sacred Hall. It was the symbol of the first cultivation sacred ground after the unification of the Ancient Chaos Great Thousand Worlds, and also the highest sacred ground. Yi Lan and the other 8 rulers also integrated their own supreme Tao laws. But the true core was still Chen Hao's Daoyuo Jinxian's Tao marks. All runes, heaven and earth energy, as well as the mysteries of space-time and space and time, they all revolved around the Tao marks left behind by Chen Hao. This was something that even Yi Lan and the masters of the 9 galaxies did not expect. Was the Tao's origin, the Tao's profound mysteries, the Tao's mysteries, Ants contains profound mysteries, and the origin Tao source the Tao. This origin had already surpassed them. Especially the Tao mark pressure that Chen Hao condensed, it was different from the fish given to fish. Cultivators could only comprehend the Tao marks of their absolute arts to improve themselves. Chen Hao, on the other hand, taught him to fish. What Chen Hao condensed almost didn't contain any fixed divine ability laws. It was completely based on the great Tao outline that he had comprehended as a blueprint, fusing the most fundamental understanding of the heavenly Tao into it. To a cultivator, this was a fundamental benefit. It definitely wasn't as simple as comprehending a divine ability or supreme art. This was a fundamental difference. Chen Hao's terrifying performance completely dispelled the doubts of the rulers of the 9 galaxies. It also made them truly acknowledge the existence of the future ruler of the universe, the god of slaughter, Chen Hao. In the blink of an eye, another 10 years had passed. On this day, in the ancient Chaos Temple, Chen Hao, Chen Shui, and the other girls gathered in a circle, kneading a naked baby. This was Chen Hao's 7th anima. The 7th anima was different from the 2nd anima to the 6th anima. This was a true rebirth. But it was also different from Si Xian's absolute rebirth. This was because Chen Hao had completely sealed his memories in the 7th anima. As his realm increased, they would slowly awaken. Chen Hao pushed Long Ting's hand away and protected the 7th anima, who was still a baby. "Wives, you're harming a baby." Little sister Ting, you dare to pinch my dick?" Okay, let's stop messing around." "How? What do you plan to do?" Chen Hao said, "What else can I do? I'll let him grow under your supervision. My memories are completely sealed in his soul origin. Only cultivation is his own business. As his realm increases, his memories will awaken a bit and he'll become the same realm as my true body. Won't this affect your strength after the fusion?" Hu Mainyang frowned. "The 9 lives profound art is just a divine ability. Do you think I'll rely on it to reach the peak of the great Tao? Besides, it won't affect anything," Chen Hao said. Chen Shui thought for a moment and said, "Then let teacher Si Xian look after us while we're in the 10-direction territory." The heavenly Tao law had undergone an astonishing change after the unification of the ancient chaos boundless world. According to Yi Lan, the ancient chaos boundless world only lacked in foundation and time compared to the great world of Xiandi. The supreme realm of the heavenly Tao law was not inferior to the great world of Xiandi. Similarly, the current 10-direction territory was not inferior to the great world of Xiandi. Give it to her? Chen Hao was slightly taken aback and immediately said, "What? It seems you're still worried. It's good to let her supervise for a while." At this moment, there was a fluctuation in space and Yi Lan and Si Xian appeared in front of everyone. "Speak of the devil. Don't give it to me. Master should supervise her. I'm not interested in supervising a little brat. What left Chen Hao speechless and the girls embarrassed was that Si Xian, who had just arrived, directly said such a thing. The corners of Yi Lan's mouth carried a trace of a smile as he directly said, "This old man will supervise." "How, are you ready?" "Sort of." Chen Hao frowned slightly and looked at the girls with a trace of reluctance in his eyes. However, no matter how reluctant he was, he still had to leave eventually. The 10-direction territory had indeed become stronger and might not be inferior to the existence of the Hongmeng territory in the great world of Xiandi. However, Yilan still insisted that Chen Hao step into the great world of Xiandi as soon as possible. Firstly, Chen Wuliang, Han Mei, and Shui Mei had already entered. Yilan knew very well what they would encounter when they arrived there. However, he could not stop them. There were some things that they would only understand and feel at ease after experiencing it themselves. Secondly, the great world of Xiandi gathered countless geniuses from the great thousand domains. That was the place that suited Chen Hao. The sooner he entered, the more beneficial it would be for Chen Hao's growth. Chen Hao's strength in the Daluo Golden Wonderland was far from the limit. Yilan was sure that Chen Hao still had a lot of room for improvement in the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Under such circumstances, the 10-direction territory could never satisfy Chen Hao's needs. The path of a powerhouse could not be reached by being as lonely as snow in the river. One had to go to the sea and constantly move forward in the collision between powerhouses. Chapter 1154. Then let's go. Si Xian will send you into the galaxy tunnel. Chen Hao nodded. He was in the Daluo Golden Wonderland, so he couldn't enter the galaxy tunnel by himself. Once he stepped through the entrance of the 10 Directions domain, he would directly enter the 10 Directions domain. Therefore, he could only let the cultivators of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm into the galaxy tunnel. Si Xian only needed to take Chen Hao into her mind and let him out after entering the galaxy tunnel that led to the great world of Xiandi. "Hao, don't worry, we will wait for you to come back. It's only been less than 100,000 years. Maybe when you come back, we won't even step out of the 10 Directions domain." Chen Shui, who was wearing a blue dress, said softly with a smile on her beautiful face. The girls also smiled at Chen Hao, but, "Wait for me to come back. Let's go." Chen Hao couldn't bear to watch anymore. He didn't want the girls to be too tired. Would he be relieved if they sent him off with a strong smile? Therefore, Chen Hao didn't say anything else. He turned into a stream of light and stepped into the gate of time that Yi Lan had already opened. Si Xian followed closely behind. The girls only retracted their gazes when the gate of time disappeared. Their smiles were replaced by tears and reluctance. Chi. Yi Lan didn't hesitate. The moment the gate of time closed, she suddenly attacked. The 10 tokens combined into one and released endless immortal light, completely erasing the aura of Chen Hao's imprint in the greater 1,000 primordial realms. Even the origin link between Chen Hao's 7th life and it was temporarily severed. Walking the Great Tao alone is destined to endure loneliness that ordinary people can't bear. You are all the hope of the primordial realms. For now, Chi. Cutting off the aura of Chen Hao's imprint in the primordial realms was inevitable. However, Chen Hao and the girls didn't expect Yi Lan to act so decisively as soon as Chen Hao left. The void suddenly shook, and the masters of the 9 galaxies appeared in front of Yi Lan. Reincarnate. Yi Lan finally finished the rest of his sentence. At this moment, the ancient chaos ruler's tokens suddenly released a boundless profound aura under the combined efforts of Yi Lan and the 9 galaxy rulers. Beams of resplendent and profound immortal light directly sealed away the astonished women. Soon after, all the women fell into a daze. Endless profound runes flickered unceasingly. Yi Lan and the 9 controllers' beards and hair stood on end. They were all raised to the limit. They began to display the unparalleled might that only the controllers of ancient chaos had after unifying ancient chaos. It was just that the 10 of them had to work together to control it. Endless cycle of reincarnation. Yi Lan's idea was simple. He wanted the girls to grow together with Chen Hao's 7th anima. Thank you, Teacher Si Xian. Goodbye. After entering the Milky Way tunnel leading to the great world of Xiandi, Chen Hao cupped his fists and said to Si Xian when Si Xian released Chen Hao from the macro world in her mind. Goodbye? I didn't say I wouldn't go to the great world of Xiandi, Great Controller Chen. Si Xian smiled faintly and glared at Chen Hao, then looked at the endless Milky Way tunnel in front of her. You're going too? Of course I'm going. Ancient Chaos's heavenly laws have become much stronger, and Master said it's comparable to the great world of Xiandi. However, within the same realm, you know better than me the feeling of loneliness. If you want to improve even more, the only way is to enter the great world of Xiandi. Si Xian said. Chen Hao frowned slightly. Don't worry, I won't drag you down. You enter your Hongming domain, and I'll train myself. We won't affect each other, Si Xian said. Chen Hao couldn't help but ask, Senior Yilan asked you to send me in? You didn't act on your own, did you? How is that possible? I've discussed it with Master, Si Xian said hurriedly. You haven't lied before, have you, Teacher Si Xian? Of course not. I've never lied. Are you suspecting me? That's right. It's precisely because you haven't lied before that your performance this time is too fake. I advise you to go back. It's still not too late. What are you talking about? Si Xian's face immediately turned red. When you said you wanted to follow us to the great world of Xiandi, Senior Yilan didn't object. That's because you've indeed reached your limit in Ancient Chaos. There's no room for improvement. However, Ancient Chaos has been unified, and the Heavenly Tao has changed. You still have a lot of room for improvement. Even if Senior Yilan wants you to go, it'll only be when your strength reaches the limit of your Hongmeng domain. Don't worry about me. You're the one who said that a general can't obey orders when he's outside. There's one more thing. Senior Yilan has already told me the basic situation of the great world of Xiandi. With your strength in the Grandmist Supremacy realm, you might be first-rate in the great world of Xiandi, but your life force. Do you really need to go now? Chen Hao, what do you mean? I've already decided. And I've already entered. I don't need you to care about me. Why are you poking your nose into other people's business? All right, do as you wish. Chen Hao shook his head and didn't say anything else. He sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. However, his heart couldn't calm down. It wasn't because of Si Xian, but because of his departure. In the end, Chen Hao still couldn't accomplish the same thing. Leaving behind the seventh anima gave the women a bit of mental comfort. However, Chen Hao was well aware that because of the special nature of the 9 animus arcane art, his true self was the only thing that mattered to them. 100,000 years, Chen Hao murmured in his heart. The time he agreed to with Yilan was the time his father, mother, and Master Han Mei had agreed to. When his father and the others left for about 100,000 years, Yilan would rush over to pick them up in advance. 100,000 years was indeed nothing in the long life of a cultivator, but for the young Chen Hao, it was quite long. Moreover, Chen Hao knew that there was still a huge crisis in ancient chaos that might erupt in another few tens of thousands of years. But Yilan still proposed 100,000 years. Chen Hao knew that it came from Yilan's self-confidence. When Chen Hao returned to the Ancient Chaos Great Thousand World from the Ancient Chaos Great Desolation domain, what changed was not only the supreme heavenly Tao of Ancient Chaos, but also Yilan. It wasn't Yilan's strength. With Chen Hao's current realm, no matter how strong his perception was, the feeling Yilan gave him could only be described as unfathomable. Chen Hao couldn't tell whether his strength had increased or not, but Yilan gave him a feeling of being reborn. And Yilan also clearly told Chen Hao that the seal that had imprisoned him for hundreds of millions of years had been released. What did that mean? Yilan was previously imprisoned by a terrifying seal and was the #1 expert in ancient Chaos City who was on par with the Shao family's ancestor. Now that the seal was released, how strong would he be? Third update, begging for monthly votes. Chapter 1155. Shao Hui Hao. Where is he going? He's going to the great world of Xiandi, a space stronger than the ancient chaos boundless universe. Mom, don't worry, he'll come back. He left the seventh life behind. With me around, he'll be fine, I know. But when he comes back, will he really fuse? Probably. When he steps into the peak of the late Grand Mist Supremacy realm, he'll probably fuse. Mom, don't think too much. This time, he asked the second life to come back and accompany you and Dad, as well as them for 10 years. He's not a heartless person. After the fusion, this memory will always exist. Look, the planet he's fighting for our Sky River is the best proof. It's just that he's under too much pressure and doesn't have time for himself. Oh, on a planet in the ancient chaos boundless universe, Chen Hao's mother in the Sky River sector and the little nurse, Lu Hui, sat on a sofa on the rooftop of a building. They stared at the endless void and talked softly. Lu Hui, the soul of all creation, had stayed in the ancient chaos boundless universe with the other girls under Yi Lan's suggestion. She was the reincarnation of the immortal emperor and the soul of all creation. Although it couldn't restrict her growth in Chen Hao's mind, it still affected her. Now that the ancient chaos boundless universe had become stronger, leaving the little nurse behind would allow Chen Hao to truly have no distractions. In fact, it was just temporarily letting go of everything. This time, Lu Hui didn't insist. However, she didn't show her face, nor did she stay with the other girls. Instead, she chose to stay with Chen Hao's parents in the Sky River sector, as well as her family and friends. The Milky Way galaxy was her foundation. Although Nurse Lu Hui did not know what would happen after her awakening, she knew that one day, the silent space of the Milky Way sector would once again become a real great thousand world following her awakening. At that time, all living things would be revived, and the ancient powers that had disappeared would be revived. It would be the beginning of a new era for the great thousand world of the Milky Way. This was something that the young nurse was looking forward to. But no one knew that the nurse's expectation was that in the future, she would be fully awakened and be able to command the countless awakened mighty people in the heavenly river. She just wanted to become more important in Chen Hao's heart and become the real, first female lead. She wanted to become an indispensable existence and the strongest assistant to Chen Hao. Phew, Chen Hao heaved a long sigh. You don't have to do this, do you? Do I give you such a headache? What Chen Hao didn't expect was that Si Xian actually looked at him with a frown after hearing his sigh. You've overestimated your worth. Let me give you one last piece of advice. You should go back by yourself. Otherwise, Senior Yilan will also capture you back. Chen Hao said helplessly. Chen Hao had no way to deal with Si Xian and her third anima, Xiaofeng. Whether it was the weaker Xiaofeng or Si Xian, their statuses suppressed him to death. The fake identity of the limitless ancestor was his former master, but his real identity was the immortal legend that even his father called master. What could Chen Hao do? First, it was Xiaofeng, now it was Si Xian, not to mention anything else. Just the fact that Si Xian followed him unwisely at this time was enough to explain the problem. It was just that Si Xian didn't think so. That's impossible. First, I've already decided. Even if Master knows, he will agree with my choice. Second, it's impossible for Master to capture me in time, Si Xian said confidently. Senior Yilan's speed can't catch up with you? Chen Hao asked rhetorically. In the galaxy tunnel, as long as a cultivator chose a direction, their teleportation speed would be amazing, but it was the same for any cultivator. If Yi Lan came in with his unfathomable strength, there would be no problem for him to catch up with them. What's more, he and Si Xian were completely at the mercy of the galaxy tunnel. They didn't use their own strength to speed up at all. Master can't care. By the time he realizes that I've left, we'll be almost at the great world of Xiendi. What do you mean? Chen Hao asked with a frown. There's no harm in telling you. Master and the masters of the 9 galaxies have already joined forces to cast a spell on your women when we entered the gate of time and space to go to the 10th direction territory. It will take at least half a year to complete. Cast a spell? Cast a fucking reincarnation spell. What? Don't worry, Master and the masters of the 9 galaxies have joined forces to activate the Ancient Chaos Controller's token, which can control all lives in Ancient Chaos. Your departure will definitely have a great impact on them. The best solution is to let them enter the reincarnation cycle. Moreover, previously because they wanted to catch up with your footsteps, Their crazy cultivation and advancement were more or less a little extreme. It's good for them to be reincarnated once or several times. Moreover, they can grow together with your 7 lives. Si Xian said. Chen Hao frowned and pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, "That's right. It seems that you're determined to go?" "Of course. Then it's up to you. When the time comes, don't be ravaged and go back crying. You should worry about Xue Mei, Han Mei, and Wuliang. Although my life aura is old, I have no problem protecting myself in the same realm. The great world of Xiandi's rules are very strict. At most, those of a higher realm can look down on me, but they can't do anything to me. Moreover, I'm only in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. Before I reach Cutting Dao, I'm still very malleable. What about them?" "They've all reached Cutting Dao," Si Xian said very calmly. Moreover, she had indeed spoken to the bottom of Chen Hao's heart. Without a doubt, this was what he was most worried about. Previously, he only knew that the great world of Xiandi was powerful, but now, after receiving the specific information about the great world of Xiandi from Yilan, Chen Hao knew that even his father, who dominated ancient chaos, would probably be bullied there and would have to swallow his anger. This was all Cutting Dao's fault. "When we enter the great world of Xiandi, let's first find my parents and Master Han Mei." Chen Hao hesitated for a moment, then looked at Si Xian and said, "Us?" Si Xian was slightly taken aback. She wanted to say something, but Chen Hao immediately closed his eyes. A light flashed between his brows, and the 2nd to 6th onimus escaped from the great world in his mind. Si Xian glared at Chen Hao, then looked at the excited clone. In the end, she did not say anything, but the corners of her mouth could not help but curl into a faint, pleased smile. "Hello, Master Si Xian. It's a very satisfying thing to have a great beauty like you by my side on this lonely journey." The Dao manifestation immortal fruit tree transformed into Chen Hao's original appearance. Dao laws surged around it, and the corners of its mouth curled into a smile as it ran in front of Si Xian. "Beauty, didn't you just say that your life aura is old? Although I can't prevent your life aura from aging, I can make you as full of youthful vigor as a beautiful girl. Do you want it?" The tree of life, which had also transformed into Chen Hao, ran in front of Si Xian and said, "Fourth update, begging for monthly votes. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.